So what? Okay. Love it. Welcome everybody to the Austin Weirdnobz list review for Houston Hammerfest 2022. Here I am today. I'm joined by Judge, Jury, and Tio himself, who is laughing his ass off.
Yeah, what's up,
Mr.
dude?
Gavin Gagar, who is
We had to restart.
Sigmar.
Yeah, I'm okay. Halfway decent.
And also with me, I have another weird knob, Brian Faber, who is going to be streaming and casting this weekend, one of the crew. How's it going, guys?
It's going great. I'm looking forward to Hammerfest and kind of be a part of it in my own little way, and seeing what happens, see what what we see out there. Some really interesting lists, some big names going up to this particular tournament, so it should be a good time.
Yeah, we got a lot of out-of-staters coming in and trying to get in on our turf. It's going to be really exciting to see how it goes. Now, something special we got going on at this tournament. We have a prize raffle going, all proceeds to charity, right, Gavin? You want to talk about that charity a little bit?
Yes. So instead of giving people who already have too much stuff and stuff, we're going to do a raffle instead because that's kind of cool and like flavor to taste on how much you want to go in on the models, and then you also get to feel good about throwing your money away too. So it's a grand old time. So throw your money away for a good cause.
Heck yeah. Love it here. Not unfriendly, let's just say, Texas tournaments are not new to doing charity prize raffling, which is always a cool thing to see that we do. And with that being said, let's just get straight down to business. We got a lot of lists to go through. No need to waste any more time. Steven, if you could switch us over to the lists. The way that this works. So go ahead, Brian.
There's an incredible 93 players coming out to Houston for the weekend, so it should be a good time. I'm really interested to see who ends up showing up and how people end up doing.
It's going to be a really awesome time. Now, normally, if you've watched the list review show before, normally they just go alphabetical through BCP. Boom, they got the list. We're not doing that because there's way too many of them, and we'll be here forever. So instead, we've organized everything by Grand Alliance and then Army. We're going to give you a little bit about the Army, and then we're going to break down the list in the Army. Some of them are really similar. Some of them aren't. We're going to start with Cities of Sigmar. We got 2 players playing Cities of Sigmar this upcoming tournament. One of them is playing Phoenicium, and the other is playing Tempest Eye. Is an army that is kind of an amalgamation of sorts. They're meant to be the regular people of Sigmar, and as such, they have a bunch of weird coalition rules to take in other units depending on what city you're representing. Phoenicium taking the Phoenixes and the more tankier battle line, and Tempest Eye usually doing a bunch of shoot stuff. Let's break down the first list. We've got Matthias Pan, who has no club affiliation at all. His grand strategy is defend what's ours. His triumph is inspired, getting the +1 to wound. The grand strategy being to not have any enemy units wholly within your territory when you start. He's got a Frostheart Phoenix, an Assassin, and a Hurricanum with the Battle Mage, the unit you typically see in cities lists, and a second Frostheart Phoenix. Going for that, I believe it's the -1 to wound aura that gives you. And then 2 more Assassins. Oh, this is weird because it's separated from me. 3 units of 10 Phoenix Guard, a Life Swarm, 2 units of 10 Shadow Warriors. Bounty Hunters. And then a second Bounty Hunters that's illegal.
So that's cool. We've already got our first catch, which is a real benefit to having these list reviews, I think, is that we get to give better feedback than when you get to the day of, and here, change this stuff. But this list is actually pretty interesting. It's really close to what one of my top 8 opponents played at Las Vegas. I think Jeremy Lefebvre is who was playing that. He had a little bit different of an assortment of models, but this one's got the big pieces. He's going to play around the Frost Arts, right? -1 to wound aura, and then they're just generally tanking, ward, lots of healing. And then they give a bunch of bonuses to Phoenix Guard, make them more tanky, make them fight when they die. And the Shadow Warriors are really good tech that lets them play the board. So all those like elements together let them play like a really strong objective game. I think I would like to see expert conquerors in here instead of bounty hunters.
I think I agree based on your assessment.
Yeah, I get the thought process with bounty hunters with Phoenix Guard. They throw a lot of dice, like giving them more damage is good. I have found that bounty hunters is really hit or miss. It's not really a game changer when it comes into play, is what I found. But expert conquerors is more agnostic in what it does in the game and is always valuable, right? So
yeah, especially with this list and what it wants to do.
Yeah, exactly. Agree. And that's kind of one of the more valuable things I've found in the new edition as I played more games is expert conquerors, and I think I'd like to see one of these bounty hunters be changed to it. But good list. I saw like Jeremy did really well with it. You got all the tools to do really well. So, and I enjoy stuff that's very different, and this is very different. So
yeah, I agree. It's nice to see Phoenician on the table in general.
Yeah.
Brian, do you have any quick thoughts on this list?
No, I mean it's elves, right? So it's taking some older stuff. It is different from what we normally see. I think it's like really trying to leverage like Phoenix Guard. I do worry that if you take out a couple key pieces, the list is not going to really have a lot of staying power. But it's hard to really punch a Phoenix. So we'll see how they do.
Well, cool list. Good luck to you, Matthias. And on the other side of the spectrum, we had the first Cities of Sigmar list playing the objective game and trying to have as much staying power as possible. We're flipping over to Tempest Eye with Randy Brasher's Cities of Sigmar Tempest Eye list that is just wants to shoot you off the table as fast as possible. He's got what he calls the Baba Bugman's Hurricanum. It's just another battle mage on a Hurricanum. He's got an Admiral and a Battle Mage. Then he's got 3 units of Free Guild Pistoliers, a unit of Free Guild Guard, 4 Stormdrake Guard in 1 unit, and Ironclad, all in a battle regiment for 1 drop. Basically, what the list wants to do is force you into a deployment where he gets to choose whether he wants to try to move forward and shoot you off the board, or let you come to him and then shoot you off the board. It's very, very Alpha Strike ranged heavy list. If you but it centers a lot around its key, like Battle Mage and, both Battle Mage, the Hurricanum and the regular Battle Mage units, because of the buffs that they get from Hawkeye and from the, I forget what it's called on the War Scroll itself, getting the +1 to hit and wound auras. Its battle line is there to just scream, do a bunch of damage, and shoot. Its real heavy hitters come from the Ironclad, and then, funny enough, the Hurricanum doing its mortal wound shot. But this list really just wants to punch you in the mouth as hard as it can at range, and then hopefully it doesn't take enough damage on the crackback to play for objectives.
I think the other key thing to remember with this list is that he's very, very good with those Pistoliers. He uses them out to basically get out there, screen, take up space, while everything else does is shooting. Anything that's scary enough to go through those lines usually gets hit with those dragons.
Yes. Gavin, do you have any thoughts on this list?
Yeah, it's a good list. I mean, Randy's been pushing it around for since Slambo, right? So it's been a minute. You've seen it, seen him take it out to a few tournaments. He's done pretty well with it. I expect him to do well again for all of the strengths and weaknesses that Joe both outlined. Got a really strong field coming in, so we'll see how he does with it.
Yeah, man.
Excited for him. Yeah.
It'd be fun if someone can handle the Alpha Strike or hit him at range back. Then the list is gonna have a tougher time staying in play.
It really does take advantage of one of the strengths with cities being able to coalition and those other pieces. He's got, basically pieces from 3 different armies and using those to his strength for this one list. So I think it's one of the big benefits of Cities of Sigmar, and we'll see how he does. It's traditionally given me some trouble, so we'll see.
Yeah, it's a list that's got a really strong turn 1. So
yes,
you can kind of disconnect him from that turn 1 and then peel some of his pieces away from him. The list doesn't do great in the mortal wounds. The magic-based mortal wounds he can ignore with the dragons, but once he starts to die off the board, it's kind of all comes apart unless he's been able to take out the key pieces. So we'll see if anybody can drag him into the later game.
Yep.
And that's kind of where the list will struggle more than it really wants to play turn 1 really hard.
Absolutely.
So.
All right, cool. Good luck to you, Randy. Looking forward to seeing you soon. Sad I can't be at Wonko today to see you. That's the end of our Cities of Sigmar, though. Up next, we have Daughters of Khaine. We got 6 people playing Daughters of Khaine. Most of the builds right now tend to look pretty similar. Tend to be the Morathi and the Bow Snakes build, with slight variation on how you want to handle that. So starting first, we got Christian Aguilar, who's taking Morathi and the Bow Snakes, but also some melee snakes and Xanther Kai because they fight on death in melee. He's got Zealous Order, a command trait that we tend to see pretty much universally to get the 4-up rally. And he put an Arcane Tome on his Iron Scale to turn into a wizard and gave it the Steed of Shadows, which I don't remember what that spell does, but Gavin, you know a little bit about Doc.
Changes his movement to 16, gives him fly.
Oh, that one. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest, guys. I play Lizards, and most of the time it's just spell unbound. That's usually how it goes for me.
No, I mean, I like the list. I've seen Christian pushing around locally. He's a Houston local.
Yep.
So he's got the 15 Bloodstalkers. He's playing 10 for a little bit. So I'm glad that he switched to the 15. Because if you're going to go into Morathi and Bow Snakes, you need to have 15. Just build into the mechanic. Don't try to be cute and have other things. Like, that's what the list is supposed to do, right?
Yep.
And then I'd like to see 5 more Heartrenders just for tactic access. But 5 is fine. You still pick up. Like, that's great. You can help with Barge, and things of that nature. Just 2 really give you the full profile of your battle texts you can score while you sit in your castle. It's a really strong combination, usually. Iron Scale could be good, could be bad. He already has Snake Battle Line for being in the sub-faction, so he could have opted for the Wizard, but run and charge is always good, right? And he has all snakes. The big difference and separate our scene in the Daughters of Khaine players is how much activity they get out of their out of the melee of their Bloodstalkers now, because if they change to GV, they're actually like a really good combat unit in addition to being a shooting unit. And you see a lot of people get stuck in that old 2.0 mentality of I sit and don't do anything in melee, but you can also be active in melee too, and especially with Daughters of Khaine lists. You don't have a lot of material, so you need to get every ounce out of what you have. So we'll see how he winds up doing with it.
Yep, Doc playing very much for the early game and trying to run the opponent off the board as much as possible so that it can last into the late game. Now, I did notice something interesting with this list that I haven't seen much, is that he took an extra Triumph. He's got the Bloodthirsty for the free reroll and the charge, and he's got the Inspired for the +1 to wound. Sitting at 1990, I don't know how often he's going to get that, but an interesting choice nonetheless.
Yeah, I think there's better options if you're at 1990. But it's good to see people explore other options. Just you want to take into account everything you have to, right? You don't want to necessarily give away an extra Triumph by not being low enough points. So.
I agree, and I think it's a more interesting take if he does have the extra Heartrenders and drops one of the sisters down to a 5-man unit instead, because he's got a bigger Triumph bid for that.
Yeah.
Anyway, looking forward to seeing you, Christian. Sorry, Gavin, do you have any more thoughts?
Mm-mm.
All right, cool. Moving on to Isaac, who's a Weirdnobz, and he's experimenting with a combo that makes me vomit, because he's bringing Kronspine and Morathi. I had to face this on Sunday at the local, and it was just, I mean this in the most complimenting way if you're watching this, Isaac, but it was annoying as shit. Talk about 3 units that just rush up the board, they can't die in one combat phase, and they just kind of hold you there. It didn't help we were playing head-on collision, so it was just the 3 objectives in a line. It was just cool, you're pinned right there. I'm like, interactive game of Sigmar. The rest of it was fun. But it's just, that is a frustrating combo in itself. And he uses it very effectively. And difference between this list and last list, he's got the Hag Queen on foot instead of the Iron Scale, because he wants the Witch Brew. He took Sacrament of Blood, so he can double up on the +1 to the Blood Rights table. So he can get those buffs early for his Stalkers and his sisters. There is not a lot of it on the board. It very much heavily relies on using Kronspine and Morathi to kind of mess up your opponent's game, and then just shred with the Bloodstalkers and Blood Sisters where you need.
And he's really leaning into the strengths of Doc and also trying to mitigate their weaknesses, right? Like he has a list that has a little more staying power than what you normally see with both Morathi and Kronspine. You can't just alpha them off the board. They're just big blocking pieces. And then by taking the Blood Sisters, Bloodstalkers, like he's gonna easily be able to hit his grand strategy. Just needs to fight once with everything on the board, which should have no problem doing. That's gonna give him a huge advantage.
The only thing is that because he's taking Kronspine, he does not have the full Bloodstalker unit. He's only taking 10. A little harder to keep alive. And these guys, he's got the pendant as the artifact. I can't remember what that does.
Which pendant?
The Khainite pendant, it says.
It's extra prayers, some way, I think. It's a prayer buff. But yeah, I mean, I kind of tend to agree with like Kronspine. I have found is not very good in armies that are already on low material and have really good book options for what it's trying to do. I get the thought process, but when I look at this list, what I see is that it's going to be very hard for him to be below or above 3 and 2. Like I think it's just a list that is going to go 3 and 2 very reliably. It'll be able to beat some armies that don't have tools to deal with what he's bringing, but there's going to be a lot of players that just know how to navigate what he has, and then also have armies that are equipped to deal with it. So it'll be interesting to see if he places below or above 3 and 2.
Yep.
Because that's what this list screams to me, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. You know, it's definitely a fun list. You can push it pretty quickly.
Yeah, he's been really liking the feel of it and getting the practice with it. So maybe with some favorable matchups, he might be able to push for some stronger record. But this is a really tough field to bring this list in. I agree.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's something to say. Like when you're sitting across the table from both Morathi and an Incarnate, it's going to cause people to panic a little bit. And taking an opponent off their game has quality in of it itself.
Mental game. All right, next up, we got Mr. Greminger, Justin G himself out of Harambe's Heroes, who is taking not his own army, but still a good army nonetheless. It is Morathi and the Bow Snakes. There's nothing new. Oh, here we go. 2 Heartrender units and a Cogs. There's a difference between this list and the previous list. So he's got the 2 Heartrenders, allowing him to get that battle tactic, which unfortunately ain't worth extra points here because Judge, Jury, and T.O. said no. But it is still a good free battle tactic, and those Heartrenders are pretty good at getting 2 battle tactics reliably. You get barge through enemy lines and whatever it's called from the doc book really well.
Yeah, Tide of Blades, Cruel Delight. Yeah, he went to the list that I've been playing locally. He hit copy, and then he pasted it into his submission for BCP, which is admirable, I suppose. But
a little bit of effort.
Now Justin's great. He's playing something different than he normally plays. Plays a lot of Iron Jaws, plays a lot of Seraphon. So
yes,
he's making his trek along of all the narrative, fun to play armies that are definitely taking a step down from power level.
Absolutely, yeah.
But he's looking to challenge himself, so he took some Daughters of Khaine, and we'll see how he does.
He wanted to take an army that was historically a little harder to win with, yeah.
Of course, yeah. It's always good to challenge yourself.
Love you, Justin. Hope you have fun with the army at least.
One thing that I've been playing with that I actually like is switching these 5 Blood Sisters out for 10 Witches, because they wind up being a screen, and 10 Witches do the same thing, and then it gives you a 25-point bid for Triumph, which is another damage amplification for your army, which is trying to push damage. So that's a wrinkle that I've found through playtesting that I enjoy, rather than just having 5 more Blood Sisters. But
makes sense.
I suppose it's a personal preference.
Also counts for more bodies on objectives, which I don't know if that may or may not matter in some cases, but
yeah, they've got the bucklers too. So when people try to do combat damage to them, you do some mortal wounds back that maybe they weren't expecting. So
makes sense if you're using them more as a screen roll. Cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going. We got Michael Wynn from the Dallas Defenders, our first Defenders coming down to Houston to rumble. Michael Wynn, who historically plays Doc. I don't know if he has any other army. I only ever see him with the snakes, and they are gorgeously painted. If you haven't seen the army, I highly suggest you see his Twitter at Grumdy, or just take a look at the army itself when you get down to Houston. It's gorgeous. He is also bringing Marathi and the Bow Snakes, but he is also, instead of bringing all of the Heartrenders, he's bringing not only Collies but the Heart of Fury to get the -1 damage buff on the Endless Prayer. And it looks like 15 Bow Snakes, 10 melee snakes, 10 melee snakes, and a Hat Queen on a Cauldron of Blood.
I really like the inclusion of Heart of Fury. It's a little bit different. It's going to make those Bow Snakes just a little bit, just stick around a little bit longer. Everyone hates Thunder Lizards, and this gives them that sort of ability to just stay around just that much longer.
Yeah, it helps him stick around for a 4+ rally, which is nice. He has pulled Heartrenders, which is kind of a red flag to me. I think that Heartrenders is something that should be in every Daughters of Khaine list, just because it helps you play the objectives very well. But he's got some good tools here. He's got the Heart of Fury, like he said, and then 15 of each variation of snake, pretty much. And then, you know, the 1+ persistent save across his entire army is really nice.
Yes.
It's stacked with Heart of Fury, like we are talking earlier. It'll give his army some staying power, but it will allow his army to be jammed in his deployment zone, which will be a problem against some things that he just can't fight his way away from.
And he does have the Crown of Woe in this list, which is the anti-battle shock inspiring presence artifact, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I
think that everybody takes that artifact. It's just so good. I mean, right? It's got
True.
2 mechanics that most armies would love to have tied into one artifact, and it's almost too good to not take.
So we say that, and
yeah,
this is the first list we've seen it in, which is great.
Did Justin not have it? Let me look. Was that what he changed?
Yeah, he has the Shadow Stone on his.
He took Shadow Stone because he thinks his brain is bigger than mine, apparently. But yeah, the Michael Wynn probably do great. He's always consistently placing, 3 and 2, 4, 1 area, and then painted beautifully. So go check it out if you're coming to the tournament.
He's played a lot of Doc, so even if this isn't what we're saying is like the most optimal build that has no heart renders, he's still going to pilot it well enough.
It's a very aggressive list compared to some of the others. Like you have the Cogs in there to help with those charges, Heart of Fury to help you on the crackback, Hat Queen and Cauldron to just add that amount of additional high quality damage attacks. So I don't know. I think it's probably one of the more interesting lists I see for Doc. I still like a lot.
I believe this is what I faced against him at Masters too. It was the first time I faced against him. He was an awesome opponent. He pushed that game down to the wire, and he ended up taking the win. It was really cool. Looking forward to seeing you again, man. It's gonna be fun. You the last one? No, we have 2 more. I believe 2 more. Yep, 2 more Doc lists. First one, Roger Lopez from the Green Machine, who's I think out in Houston as well, which is not a Harambe.
Yeah, it's a Gold Mine Club. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and he's got Marathi and the Bow Snakes, except he's split his Bow Snakes. He's taking 20 across 2 10s with 2 units of 5 of the melee. No, I'm reading this wrong. It's all melee snakes. No Bow Snakes. I respect it. I respect the choice. Put him in Expert Conquerors. Hopefully they last long enough to make that battalion worth the effort. But he's got 2 Heart Renders, so he's going to be able to get himself some battle tactics early if he can position and do those right, sequence them correctly. There's not much to say about this list other than instead of having Bow Snakes, he's just trying to get in your face.
He also has a Current Blade that's going to give him a little bit of healing on 6s. He'll feel 1 wound to it to keep him around just a little bit longer. May not prevent him from fighting if something really wants to go after it, but it might help him just avoid like little chip damage.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cool tech. I think Crown Woe is probably a little bit better for the overall game plan, but it adds a wrinkle, right? Because some people will be with something because of standard. People prepare for the standard, so if you deviate from the standard, maybe you can catch people off guard. Gives us some value in that regard. So.
For sure, and if this is, I I believe I played against Raj at Hammerfest last year. He's a great guy. I know he doesn't get out too many GTs, so it's just really cool to see players like that be able to make it out.
Yep.
Last but not least, we have Austin's own community Bloodthirster switching over to a brand new army, still devoted to blood.
This is the wrong murder god.
But this is the wrong murder god. Jeffy himself decided that Khorne wasn't cutting it and went with Khaine instead, borrowing from our very own Matt Robish a list and practicing for hopefully what he feels will do better than what Khorne will do for him. He's not doing the Doc Grand strategy. He's just doing take what's theirs, going really aggressive with the Xanther Kai build in Marathi and the Bow Snakes. 15 Bow Snakes, 10 Melee Snakes, 5 Melee Snakes, 5 Doomfire Warlocks, and a Bloodwrack Viper, though. Bloodwrack Viper is some pretty sweet tech. You just send it up the board, it can stomp, it can smash to rubble, and it just eats 3 models, depending on the model you go to, depending on the unit you go to.
Yeah, it's interesting. I imagine that Mr. Robish had a very integral part in his list writing with this list. He's got his fingerprints all over it.
Yep.
All the way down to the Doomfire Warlocks, which I know he's a giant fan of. We'll get to see if Jeff's woes as of late have been army or pilot related. I'm eagerly awaiting. We'll see what his outcome is. Hopefully the Daughters of Khaine are everything he hopes they are throughout his experience in Hammerfest.
He's been having some fun practicing with the list so far, and even sticking with the Matt Robish special Doomfire Warlocks.
Yeah, exactly. So it's cool. It's cool to see him play something else than Khorne, right?
Yeah.
He's been playing Khorne a really long time. I know that he's voiced his frustrations about the state of their book, even though I tend to think they're a little stronger than advertised, but they definitely have some weaknesses that this list doesn't.
Yes.
So we'll see how he does with it.
And he's not ready to try to commit to the Cruel Boys in a GT setting.
Yeah. Don't blame him.
Not at all. Love you, Jeff. It's going to be fun seeing you down here. Hopefully, we might see you starting a new army of your own after Hammerfest, if you enjoy it so much. And that's all our Daughters of Khaine. Moving on to our next army, we are at Fyreslayers, the naked dwarves who love runes of gold. Their big thing is a lot of bodies with some wards and runes that buff. And occasionally the Magma Droths. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but the two main builds we tend to see are Greyford, because more artifacts better than less artifacts, and Lofnir, because Magma Droths are cool and having them be battle line is awesome.
Plus the 18 wounds, like the increase in wounds on Magma Droths is incredibly important. Makes them into real battering rams.
See, I tend to forget that because I just focus too much on Magma Droths are cool. I'm not gonna lie.
It also it unlocks the Bounty Hunter Battalion too for them, lets them push a lot of damage, and then like all of those things together give you a lot more value out of your Magma Droths, and one of the stronger like power pieces from the book. And you also see like a few Bastard builds that are based around Volkites too. Those are probably the hardest to push, whereas Magma Droths are most straightforward in how they're strong. And then you can see like some really interesting MSU style Greyford builds where it's just lots of the characters. You just take a ton of characters and you force people to have proper target priority, and you trade really well because everything's diluted down into 100-point characters, right?
Right. Interesting. Okay. Well, then let's go ahead and just jump into these lists and see what we got. First player we got is Aaron Craig. Roll for sadness. Not quite roll to wound, but putting it all on the line right there. Running Lofnir with his grand strategy being Masters of the Forge. I don't know what that means. What is that grand strat? I'll be honest, I don't know Fyreslayers well.
The grand strategy, he has to keep up a Magma Invocation. So he's got 2 here, the Molten Infernos and the Runic Firewall. He's got to just keep one up at the end by the end of the game. Since no one really takes priests, it's a pretty easy gimme for Fyreslayers.
Makes sense. His leaders, he's got a Rune Master. Sorry, go ahead.
I said unless he plays against Seraphon.
Yep.
Yes.
He's got a Rune Master, a Rune Lord, a Rune Sun on Magma Droth, Rune Sun on Magma Droth, another Rune Sun on Magma Droth, and then looks like 2 units of Auric Hearth cards. So these are 10 mans, I think. and then a allied unit of Arcanaut Company, and some Hearthguard Berserkers on top of the invocations that you mentioned, Brian.
So those Hearthguard are 5-mans.
They're 5-mans. Okay.
So what it looks like he's trying to do is he's just running out there with Magmadross, getting in your face as fast as he can and smashing you, while doing the shooting support from the Arcanaut Companies and Hearthguard. So it's a really interesting list. He's got another big secondary backline with the Hearthguard Berserkers, but it looks like he's trying to basically create 3 layers that you have to basically shoot through. It's a really interesting list. I don't know about the Arcanaut Company. They're fairly unsupported, but they can put out consistent damage from long range. So it's definitely an interesting list.
It looks like he's got all the Magmadross and Bounty Hunters, like you mentioned earlier, Gavin, and he put the Hearthguard and the Company into Expert Conquerors. Just to give them, I guess, some objective staying power.
Yeah. Traditionally, when people have super weird things like Arcanaut Company in their list, that tells me they either have no idea what they're doing or they're very practiced and have played the list a lot and know exactly what they want out of a list. There's not a lot of like middle ground with those picks. So we'll see what kind of weekend he winds up having.
Cool. I hope you do well, Aaron. Next up, we got Andrew Miller, who's, I believe, our Andrew out of Austin. Right, Brian?
It is.
Okay.
That's correct.
So this is a Greyfeared list. He is running a Rune Master, Rune Smiter, 1 Magmadroth with a Rune Father on it, a Battlesmith. He's got 3 units of Volkite Berserkers and an Infernoth and a Firewall, with an additional 2 units of 10 Hearthguard Berserkers. Bounty Hunters on the Berserkers, and then Expert Conquerors on... looks like the Volkites? Yeah, the Volkites. Pretty much doing exactly what we were talking about earlier. He's got a bunch of heroes, bunch of spread out units. What's your take on the list, guys?
It's definitely what you traditionally see more as a Fyreslayers list. You've got lots of Volkite Berserkers running to basically get up the board, trade into pieces, take up space. His real killing power is going to, of course, be the Hearthguard Berserkers. They've got the Flame Strike full axes, so he's basically trying to play for the casino, roll those 6s, get those mortal wounds going, while providing additional support with the Rune Father.
Sweet.
He's been practicing with this list pretty well. He's made a couple additional changes from a couple locals. He just found that for the most part he needed board presence. That's why we see him changing from what he was initially doing over to more like the 3 10-man Volkite Berserkers, give him a little more board presence.
Awesome. Hope you like the changes, Andrew. I know this is your first GT. I'm looking forward to seeing you come out and have a really good time. Let's move on to Blake Beetler. I hope I said your name right. With the Gets Hot Club. Looks like he's running Lofnir, so he's got a Rune Master on foot, another on Magmadroth, a Rune Smiter on foot, a Rune Sun on Magmadroth, another Rune Sun on Magmadroth, a Knight and Cantor, in case you wanted to ally in that auto unbind, a unit of 10 Volkite Berserkers, a unit of 10 Hearthguard Berserkers. The Magmadroth is a battle line. I was about to say there's only 2 in here. That's wrong. And then looks like he's got all 3 invocations. Really gunning for it.
It's a lot of points spent on invocations. We'll see if it works for him. But it looks like he's looking to take that Knight and Cantor and give fly to a Magmadroth, just set it up someone's back end.
Cool.
But yeah, it's pretty much what you see from a like a Lofnir list. He's got, of course, the Volatile Brazier, so he's going to be able to send like something like the Molten Infernoth out, start messing with lines, start taking off points, or something like the Runic Firewall to get out there and just block something up. It's a very good wall, and having that additional cast radius for those invocations to be very strong.
Yeah, the Unbind's a nice little ally tech from the Knight and Cantor to just kind of stop the one key spell that you need to make sure it doesn't go off.
Yeah, all of these. The like recurring theme with Fyreslayers is they all play mission very well, and like a lot of these lists are tech to play tactics and board state, right? So you want to you have a lot of agnostic elements that are just good at scoring the board and scoring tactics, regardless of what you're playing against. So it's definitely a really strong faction, just very subtle. So I like the faction a lot. You see pilots like almost determine exclusively how it places. I found just nice.
It's super cool. It's probably not. Would you say it's not as aggressive as it used to be, right? I feel like old Fyreslayers, a lot of people just kind of threw them up the board, did the whole fight first thing, and then just tried to wipe their opponent, right?
Reactive, grindy, and
Mhm.
trading oriented. So that's
Okay.
with lots of like situational resources that you spend one time, and depending on the situation that you can either build towards or wait for, it can be very strong or not have much value at all. So it's very, very reactive resource management type army, which I really like to see. It's a good wrinkle to the meta right now, I think.
I agree. Moving on, we still got a few more. How many more do we have? Looks like 3, 4. Moving right along, we still got David Rodriguez from Kamikaze, who's running Lofnir. Looks like, again, Rune Father on foot, Rune Smiter, Rune Lord from Cities of Sigmar, 20 Hearthguard Berserkers, a Rune 2 Rune 3 Rune Sun's-on Magmadroths, and then a Firewall. Little less on the heroes, but 3 Magmadroths and some Hearthguard to kind of just do what they do. Doesn't really do much to say about this list on my end, at least.
Yeah, I mean the Magmadroths are the linchpins, and the especially for anytime you see the Hearthguard Berserkers included, which I'm not sure. I think this list does.
Yeah, it's got 2 units of 10.
Yeah, those have those have to stay connected to heroes, and which usually winds up being the Magmadroths by nature, because the Magmadroths stay around and give off the 4+ ward, and let them chain all the other abilities that they need to use. So that's kind of how the list plays. Those 10 man stay connected to the Magmadroths, and it's either like troops out front or Magmadroths out front, depending on what you're playing against and what you need out of those 2 roles. So, kind of all the same archetype here, very strong in the right hands, right?
Right. Look here, the next one, we've got JC Moore from the Catan clan. Also running Lofnir, but this one's a little bit more big-brained.
Oh, yeah.
It's got 4 Magmadroths.
I see the brains.
4 Magmadroths.
Just ooze.
Big brains. And then a 15-man block of Hearthguard Berserkers, because I assume they like the big hammer.
It's the biggest number that you can make in War Scroll Builder. I get it. I respect it.
Yep.
Something a little bit different from the other lists. He does have the Orc Flamekeeper, which I suspect is going to basically be attached to those Hearthguard Berserkers, just give them a little bit extra utility. But yeah, I mean, this list basically just wants to run up with the Magmadroths, rip your face off, and that's about what it's going to do. I suspect the Hearthguards probably being slower, being at their movement 4, are going to more be about securing the backline.
This honestly plays Lofnir the way I want to, just 1 Magmadroth less than I'd like.
I am curious about what his grand strategy is that was not listed.
That is a good point. We are going to need that, JC. I'm sure you would like a chance at getting 3 VP every game. That'd be nice.
Yeah,
That's also not allowed. We're going to have to fix that as well.
Yeah, see some small list corrections, but you've got the list has got the gas, right? So it'll be fun to play. Like you were mentioning earlier, I like to see a Smiter when you have Hearthguard a lot of the time, just so you can get them positioned where you want them to initially, and then kind of readjust from there. Because walking Hearthguards it kind of sucks, right? Like they're slow, they're hard to get in position, especially if your opponent wants to avoid them. Like they kind of just run away from them if they're on the right mission. Maybe just turn that into another Magmadroth, like you said, it lines up more with what the list wants to do. 15 Hearthguard, when they get engaged, are great. Just might have problems engaging, right? So.
Yep. If your opponent can stay away from them, then they can't hurt you.
Yeah.
But still cool. Looking forward to seeing all of this in Houston. And 2 more. All right, we got Matt Penegill from the Harambe's Heroes. Another Lofnir list, bringing only 1 Magmadroth, unless I'm blind. But he's got a unit of 30 Volkites.
Yeah, it's 1 with the Volkites and the Hearthguard. I think this might be what Zach brought to Slambo. It's probably Zach's list also. Matt works as an AMT, so it's really hard for him to find time to paint stuff. And he likes hanging out and playing, so I think he just wants to bring something new, push around, have a good time with his buds.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
That's what he's going for. He's very big and loud, so big and loud people are fun to be around.
Yep. Just ask Brian.
Yeah.
So he, of course, has the big block of Volkite Berserkers that you're just not going to be able to get through. That's an incredible amount of wounds to try to chew through. I also like his addition with the Nulcidian icon. We're seeing magic kind of start coming back, right? So having something that kind of protects you guys, prevent you from like getting hit with a nasty endless spell or like a big damage spell, it's definitely a benefit. I also like his addition to Curse. I saw this list run at Slambo. It did very well. Caught a lot of people off guard who were just not expecting Fyreslayers, but that 30-man Volkite Berserkers with the addition of Curse can absolutely chew through things.
Well, it caught everyone off guard who didn't know Zach could play Fyreslayers really well.
Yeah, I just forgot. He played him really well 2 or 3 years ago, and I guess he waited long enough to where everyone forgot that Zach's a good player. I don't know why you'd forget that Zach's a good player, but I mean, it happens, I guess.
Yeah. And last but not least, for our Fyreslayers round out, we have Nate Atkins, who's just registered under Goldmine team. Cool. Also bringing a Lofnir list. He's got 1, 2, 3 Magma Drops. All of them are 2 Rune Stones, a Rune Father, Rune Smiter, Rune Lord, 10 Hearthguard Berserkers, 10 Volkite Berserkers, and 3 Raptors with long strike crossbows. That's at least different. Guess he wants some range in the army because it doesn't look like he's got much otherwise.
Well, what I find with Fyreslayers is they do very well at chewing through chaff. They tend to struggle dealing with characters because they just can't get across the board. So I suspect those Vanguard Raptors is there to deal with characters, to remove some support, and then give you a little more flexibility in the list.
Yeah, and I know he plays a lot of Stormcast, so he might have been missing that element too, just during his game in general. But it's a fair point to bring Raptors in any order army. They're unlocked for anything. The Stormcast can ally with, I think, every order faction, and
yes.
it adds a nice little wrinkle that a lot of armies just can't fill normally. And then the 30-inch range lets them stay pretty safe against a lot of things. The problem with the chassis that I found is like 6 wounds. If anybody gets on them at all and breathes on them, they're gone. But if they don't, you can really get the value out of that unit over the course of a 5-turn game. So we'll see how it does for him. Nate's a great guy too.
Yeah. It's cool. And I always like seeing little wrinkles like that in lists to kind of make them that your own. So neat touch there, Nate. Looking forward to seeing all these naked dwarves on the table at 7 armies. A lot higher than I would have guessed, but it's nice to see armies be popular.
It is interesting to see just as many Fyreslayer armies as we do see Daughters of Khaine.
Yeah, not every day.
Moving on down to Deepkin, which is taking a dive in appearances. At Slambo, there was a lot, but now there's only 2. One of them being Ben Richardson from the Citadel, who I normally see on Lumineth and or OBR, bringing out the fishy boys for Phaethon, using No Place for the Weak, so he's trying to kill all your battle line. He's got a King, a Tidecaster, 20 Reavers, 10 and 20 Thralls, and 6 Sharks. Looks like he put the Sharks and Bounty Hunters, and he's got a Battle Regiment for everything else. So there's a 3-drop list that's looking to aggro, play the Tides. Phaethon is, I believe, where you flip the Tide, so he's really trying to really get in your face.
Yeah, Bounty Hunter Sharks, quite scary. They're mobile, they got good shooting, they can really tear you up if they get into you. I like this list a lot. It's going to suffer with the amount of battle line he's had. He's going to be susceptible to big hammer bounty hunter units. But, Idoneth, typically, they're able to play the phase. I assume that the reason why he's flipping the Tides is to help play into that, right? Now he gets to control what engagements he goes in, and bounty hunters are less of a problem.
Oh, is it a trait that lets him flip the Tides?
Is that you said it was the...
I thought it was Phaethon I thought Phaethon in general let him flip the Tides.
No, I think it's tied to one of the characters, right? Ishrin, I think.
Oh. Interesting.
Or maybe the command trait. I don't know. They change this book around every time. I don't. Unstoppable Fury is extra attacks. I think it's Tidecaster in some form or fashion. Lets him interact with tides.
Okay.
Yeah. The Razor Shell harpoons, good output. Nets are a little bit more tech, where the harpoon launchers is just pure output, and that's kind of what this list screams, is just pure output. Can't really take like a hard engage alpha style through melee, but with shooting he can kind of layer his things enough to keep. He can at least direct your shooting into what he wants it to go.
Yes.
So, good list.
Oh, I'm seeing now. Foythin is to take the 3 shark unit, so that's why.
Okay, so he doesn't have that, right? Command traits, Unstoppable Fury.
No. Yeah, the king is the typical kit we see with the extra attacks and just try to go in and do a bunch of stuff at once. Cool. It is still a very aggro list, as we tend to see with the King Deepkin build. But taking Foython to do the triple shark unit.
Triple shark good. Double damage in combat good.
Yep. Those shark units are I don't want to mess with them. They're scarier to me than the Thralls and Reavers. And our second list, Jonathan Suarez. This time from Houston, who's taking Nautilor. Nautilor being the sub-faction that gets you the turtle, which makes sense. You see it right there with the reverberating carapace. You take it for the mount trait that gets you the 3 Ren. With a quarter of your list in those points. And he's got 20 Thralls, 10 Reavers, and Eidolon Aspect of the Sea. So that's the casting one. And then a Soul Rander and Lotan. And 2 sharks.
Yeah, he's got the turtle and the sharks and bounty hunters as well, so see a little bit more output melee-wise from those 2 units, which I like bounty hunters in the I like bounty hunters in Deepkin a lot more than other armies because of their ability to choose a fight, and then a lot of their units have multiple profiles, and so you just get more bang for your buck out of bounty hunters too. It is a little light on material, so if he gets into other lists that trade really well or have lots of trading pieces, he can just run out of stuff. But into lists that have like a few big high priority targets, this list deals with that really well. So if he gets good draws, he can perform really well. If he's got to play against really wound dense things, I could see the list kind of run out of gas turns 2, 3, and on. But lots of good tech, lots of good tools. I like
yeah,
a lot.
Looking for tall build and getting maximum out of engagements, not being able to spread out as much.
Yep.
But still cool. Nice to see 2 different Deepkin lists. I always like seeing the turtle on the board. It's 500 points. It's a little hard if you're not playing Nautilor, but that's what it is. Next up, we've got our only Kharadron Overlords player, all the way visiting down from the Corsairs in the Pac Northwest, Mr. Jeremy Besseri. Well, I say Corsairs, but he's listed as Jump Change, so who knows at this point. He's got a Chemist, an Admiral, and 2 Navigators, 3 units of Arcanaut Company, 2 Frigates, and an Ironclad, a Horrorghast, and then 2 Gun Haulers. So he's got a lot of boats.
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 Lots of boats.
I'm sure
This
Steven is very excited.
One of the scarier combinations of list pilot that are floating around in this in the tournament. Kharadron's absolutely brutal in the right hands, and you're not going to find a better Kharadron Overlords pilot than Jeremy. And he's played this list to really good effect already. I think he's 5-0'd with it in this edition once or twice. Got all the right tools. You see the battle ram with mortals, and you can stack that with bombs. Horrorghast is a little bit different wrinkle. I think he had something else before this, but Horrorghast helps him clear hordes. Excellent. Might be the best spell in the game.
I think he was running Purple Sun before in the list. No, he did that with. Yeah, no, it might have been Purple Sun. Either way, it wasn't Horrorghast.
It was Sun, and I think the Flaming Head, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's what it was.
Yeah, plays missions really well. It's got 6 that it can score, and in the later rounds, flies around the board, and he just wants to play keep away, and chew up a little piece of your army every turn and then score really well in turns 3, 4, 5. It's kind of the game plan of the list. I'm sure he'll execute it very well. I mean, this is probably one of the favorites for the tournament right here. This large combination of pilot and
definitely
list.
hope I dodge it.
Yeah.
I do. I don't want to see
One,
it.
One of a short list of people I expect to do very well. So
agreed.
High praise.
He deserves it. So
yeah, he's got the track record.
Good luck.
I want nothing to do with this list. Respectfully, Jeremy, stay the fuck away from me. Okay. Go.
Highest win rate army in the field, faction in the field is KO. There's one player on it. Yeah.
Because there's one player. Because Zach's not playing it. Otherwise, there'd be two.
That's it. KO. Done and dusted. Yeah.
But that's it. Yep. Moving on. We've got our one Lumineth player. I'm sure a lot of people dropping off because they're waiting for the book to come out soon. But we've got DJ Jenkins, who I think one of the Texas players who's not part of the bigger clubs, Skull Thrones, but I think he came and played in Dallas in February, if I remember. If this is the same player I'm thinking of, he's bringing Zytrek, so the buff your wizards sub-faction of Lumineth. No place for the weak. He's trying to kill all your battle line. He's got Teclis as his only hero. No, I'm wrong. He's got a Cathlar. 20 Wardens, 10 Wardens, 30 Sentinels, 5 Dawn Riders, and a Rune of Petrification. Putting Bounty Hunters on, looks like the 10 Wardens and not the 10 Wardens, the 20 Wardens, and the 5 Dawn Riders, and then Battle Regimenting everything else. Going bold and taking a 3-drop Lumineth list as opposed to a 1-drop Lumineth list.
Yeah, you don't typically see people play Bounty Hunters just because of the mortal wound mechanics in the army. You get diminishing returns out of the mechanic. You see a lot of people just play 1-drop. But it's the very classic Techless Castle with 30 Sentinels and other stuff that, very minutely modifies your playstyle, but the list just playing around Techless and the 30 Wardens. So,
yep.
Great list. It's had a ton of success throughout its lifespan, so we'll see how he winds up doing with it.
Yep. Good luck to you, man.
I think it's interesting.
Moving on.
Just to speak a little more on this list, his grand strategy, he's looking to remove battle lines. So this might be still only really has maybe 2 piece that can deal with the damage. He may struggle with that as well.
Yeah, I've seen that grand strategy. There's like a bunch of debating modes of thought with grand strategy as of late, and one of them is like the kill all battle line one seems very logical on paper, but I've actually never seen anybody achieve it in game, just because it's really easy to play keep away with 1 or 2 battle line. If you know your opponent is trying to do that grand strategy, it's basically a tabling grand strategy, and there's a lot of other ones that also do that and have more achievable results. So it's not a grand strategy I really like. I never included it in list building. Take what's theirs is a good standard. If you've got speed, defend what's ours. It is a good one if you don't. And if you've got a really good book one, I would really consider it, because a lot of the grand strategies are hard to achieve in the game right now. So
yeah, I think defend what's ours would have been a better fit for this list.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, moving on to Seraphon. Seraphon, my favorite army, my pride and joy. First off, we've got Spencer Miller with a very familiar looking list, even putting it up there in the caveat. We see I stole Gavin's list, but I changed the artifact holder, so it's totally different.
It's great to see all of my lists throughout this field. They're like my children, dude. It's good to see them to go out and prosper and do great things. So.
They're praying to wrathful God, Gavin. They're just hoping you'll show a boon.
Yeah, we'll see. Good luck to you.
I'm glad Spencer isn't ashamed to admit it, and he's just, let's try it and see how it goes.
Yeah, I know he's just like very recently Seraphon. He's playing something a little different at Nova, and I could tell he's a little frustrated with some of the choices. So he's just going for more of the power build here, and he'll see readjust from there, I think. But this list is every bit as strong as I thought it would be at Nova. Was a point away from getting into the finals, so he's got all the tools to do very well. So always got to answer to every situation. So
it was really fun to watch you pilot it on stream. For those that didn't pay attention in Nova over the weekend, Gavin here got 3rd place was a point away from getting to the finals at Nova with this exact list, except for the artifact that Spencer said that he
A
changed.
better player would have got to the finals. I'm merely decent at the game, unfortunately. So
Yeah, just decent. And for those of us that actually wanted to read the list, maybe you're just listening, the list is Croak, Ashwith Bear, a Skink Priest on foot, and Energy of the Gods with the works. Prime War Beast Arcane Tome this time around, though, because Wizard Monster is good. Beastmaster and Hand of Glory for the spell. Curse for the prayer. 20 Skinks, 10 Skinks, 10 Skinks. 5 Saurus Guard to hang around Croak. 2 Basildon Arc Sotex and a Basildon with Solar Engine, and then Horror Gas and Chronomantic Cogs.
Yep.
Max battalions.
Yeah.
Gavin already said everything else he needs on the list. I need to add nothing else.
Yep, super good.
I love this list. Basildon Arc Sotex, love them. They're great. Like, what a fantastic blocking piece. Spencer, I think he knows Seraphon pretty well. I'm actually curious to see how well he does. It's big shoes to fill, that's for sure.
Go ahead and
More lizard
read
players,
the
the
next
better.
list. It's very different than this one.
Is it very different? It's very different. Oh, hey, look at that. Chris Schelling, a name that I'm not used to seeing running lizards, but a list that looks even more familiar. Because unlike Spencer, this one's not totally
Go
different.
forth, my children. They do great things.
We will say exactly 0 new things about this list because it is.
I am
because
flattered.
Chris Schelling did.
Like I guess I was onto something. I guess I made some good choices. I think so. It's cool. I would encourage people to try and add things that suit their play style too. Like I've got a very specific play style that I built towards. This strong, but it's got a lot of things that are suited for the things I want to do, and not necessarily as like an agnostic list that anybody can take and it feel really good to play. But it's got all the tools to do really well. Anything that you could need for any situation is in this list, and it's just kind of up to you to find it. So
I can kind of emphasize that point by saying that the fact that I play lizards, I play a lot of lizards, I could not do as well as you do with that list. It doesn't fit my play style, and I would definitely do worse. Copy and paste here would not work for me.
But super strong. The and then something I think we didn't mention it in the first, the Expert Conqueror Skinks, which play the board really well too. They act kind of like a vanguard in front of your turtles. Turtles are pretty slow, so skink board presence, and then force you to trade something you don't want to trade for 10 skinks. Like you always trade up, no matter what the thing is that they trade for 10 skinks. You're always getting something back that's better.
Since we see 2 lists, both of them decided to keep the grand strategy Show of Dominance. Like, have you found that easy to complete? Like, being able to control like every quarter of the board seems to be fairly difficult.
Yeah, so because Show of Dominance isn't keyworded to starting army battle line, you can crank on the engine and summon GBs. So throughout the course of the game, skinks are usually pretty hard to remove. The Saurus Guard almost never get touched unless you're almost off the board. And then you're always usually going to summon at least 10 Saurus. So as long as you can get something in the middle and tag all 4 of the board corners, like you're good to go, right? Because it's just one unit. It's not 4 separate units. You just have one that tags all 4 corners. So I found it to be really achievable. I only failed my grand strategy and my loss, and that was by if I had 1 unit live, I would have got it. But I had to take top of 5 instead of bottom of 5, so I wound up losing one of the units I had tagging the corners. So
priority roll is very important.
Yeah, well, I mean, I won the priority roll, so I had to take it the way the game played out. Made some mistakes down the stretch, so. But yeah, the grand strategy is great. That's the one I found is best. Is Chris that actually suggested it of all people, so he can take credit for it. I'll take credit for the rest of it.
I'll take him the list. Yeah, I agree. I think it's probably the best option for that list, bar none. Now we've got Cinto Quezada. That's how I'm going to pronounce your name. I apologize if it's wrong. From Grand Alliance Houston, also playing Thunder Lizard. His list name is Dino Magic, which it's pretty much all I need. Taking Defend What's Ours, so I expect a more Castle-y Seraphon version of this list. He's got Stegadon with King Chief, Prime War Beast, Cloak of Feathers. He's taking the Skystreak Bow instead of the Sunfire Thrower, so no double dice on mortal wounds. He's got a Foot Priest with Heal, Ashwood Bear, Croak, Engine of the Gods with the Fusel, so not a Wizard engine. 5 Guard, 10 Skinks, 2 Stegadons with Bows, and then Cogs. My man loves Stegadons. He's taking 4. I can respect it for that. He's taking 4 and he's taking Croak. Like,
No,
man
I
after
think
my own heart.
too. I think that the Bounty Hunter Stegs are really cool. I think that gives them that little bit of push that they had. They didn't have last edition, where Stegadons were kind of like the odd man out, whereas now they're like a real option because of the Bounty Hunters. Still, like, maybe not the cheapest piece, but it's still very, very good for 270 points, and it gives you more ranged pressure and some more punch with the mortal wounds on the charge and the combat damage. It's a very different play style than you see others, right? You kind of march forward quicker, and just depending on the toughness from the Stegadon, keep healing, keep putting out damage, right?
The main thing that really sucks about the Stegadons is that they're not elite, so they can't command point themselves. And in a list like this, you don't have a ton of board presence because you are investing a lot in your monsters.
Yeah.
But it's a fun list. I hope you have some fun. Hopefully you have some success. It is Seraphon. We all know that they're not that great a book, obviously.
Agreed. Please buff GW.
Please buff. What's next on this list? Oh, look, that's a familiar list for me.
Who is that guy?
It is my it is my brainchild for Seraphon.
You're the guy's an asshole.
This UFB.
Eli.
He's a lot. So bypassing that. No defense. Amjerk. I'm just kidding. I love everybody. But I am taking a Engine of the Gods with my general with the works. He's got Prime War Beast. I put Cloak of Feathers on him to make him a bit faster. He's got 4 extra inches of movement. He can fly. He's -1 to hit. I've got Curse on him for the prayer. I took a Slan Starmaster with the Ixty Grove, so I get that reroll plus the heal. And no Stellar Tempest to start. I've got a Skink Priest with heals. 2 Star Priests, 1 knowing by an Endless Spell to hopefully this weekend freaking take somebody's Endless Spell, because I haven't gotten to do that yet.
Bully
Another one with
the Purple Suns.
I want to bully people with their own Purple Suns. I didn't want to take one myself, just other people's. Then I got another Star Priest with Hand of Glory. I've got a Scarvet on Cold One with the Fusel of Conflagration. And then I've got 10 Knights and 2 Stegadons with Skystreak Bows and Bounty Hunters. And a Bastiladon with Solar Engine. I'm a 10-drop going for max artifacts and Bounty Hunters on the Stegs, which, like you mentioned earlier, Gavin, just makes them a lot better into combat than they were before. Last edition, I love taking 1 Battle Line Steg in Hunters of the Heartland because not getting your monster roared was really fun and really good. This time, doing more damage is better. The list basically is 3 squadrons, the Knights with the Scarvet and the Hand of Glory Star Priest to kind of be its own buff unit to go in and slam some stuff with the volume of attacks. Then the Monster Brigade and the Engine and the 2 Stegadons to go and do monster things, and then the Bastiladon Wizard Castle. I've had a lot of fun with the list. Lets me go out and have more reach than I did in the previous book, which is why I took Tickets with theirs as their grand strat, because I found myself in my opponent's territory a lot more often than I was last edition. I initially started this list with Defend What's Ours, and that was the wrong choice by a country mile. But it's fun. I've been really, really enjoying it. I'm not going to necessarily ask you guys to toot my horn, but if you have any extra comments, go ahead. Otherwise, I'm going to move on and gush about someone else's list.
No, your list is solid. You've been piloting it for a long time. You know what you're doing with it.
Yeah, it sounds like you have read the Seraphon book, perhaps, once or twice.
I did try to embody the 8 strategy of read good.
Yeah, reading is good.
Seemed to benefit me very well.
No, I like the list, dude. I think you'll do good. So, good luck. Yeah.
It has great melee presence. Hopefully that translates and works out well. That was the idea, injecting a bit more melee. But this, right now, is my favorite list. This is my favorite list.
Yeah, I could see the attraction. Yeah.
Patrick, welcome to Jurassic Park. The only thing that is not a Stegodon or a Bastiladon is the one little Star Priest that knows Hand of Glory. Otherwise, he's got a Stegodon with King Chief that is the General Prime War Beast on Sunfire Throwers. So he's doing 2 dice per every model within 8 inches when he does shooting attack. 3 Stegodons for Battle Line, all with bows. And then 3 Solar Engines.
Yeah. He wants to play Tzeentch, dude. Just
He
let
wants
him
to
play
play
Tzeentch. No, this is a man after my own heart here. I love this.
It's amazing. And he put all the Stegodons in Bounty Hunters. He's got all the Bastiladons in Linebreaker.
Yeah, it's a good touch. Linebreaker is actually really important to bypass roar mechanic.
Yes.
So I really like Linebreaker a lot, especially with 1+ saves. Seems okay. So
Yep. I loved it a ton when I was running 2 in the previous book. Saved my butt in a lot of situations when either those Bastiladons got into spots where they weren't in range of a hero, or they got roared and they needed to save themselves. Just awesome. This list has like virtually 0 board presence, but it doesn't need board presence. It's got big dinosaurs.
It's a horned wall. Like it just
dinosaurs,
moves
bro.
forward. I really like the Sunfire Throwers. Something you don't see in the other lists. I think there's definitely some tech there. You get in the number of units, especially since we see the prevalence of MSU. It plays really well, and they like starting to take out some of the support heroes, start whittling down some of the units, so that the other Stegodons, the other Bastiladons, come in there and wreck face.
Yep. Patrick, find me at Hammerfest. I will buy you a freaking beer. Like, this is amazing. All my votes. All my.
Someone just needs to follow him.
Max
Someone
Sports
just needs to
votes,
follow
Patrick.
him around with the Jurassic Park theme and a speaker.
yeah. No.
Forget that. Play the Jurassic Park song by Weird Al. Better.
No.
And unfortunately, I have to come down off that high to talk about one of our good friends, Andrew Fournet's Seraphon list. Who, while it is cool and fun, it's not as cool as 8 freaking dinosaurs.
Andrew, brand new to Seraphon, never played it. So take it easy on him. He's a brand new player and has no idea what his army does. So.
Not a clue. He's used to playing other armies, and definitely not used to playing Seraphon.
True. Yeah.
He's got an Absolute Bear, a Starseer, a Slan, a Enter the Gods. This one also just with the regular works. It's got the Cloak of Feathers and Curse, not a Wizard engine. He's got a Priest, a Star Priest, 10 Guard, 10 Knights, 10 Skinks, 1 Bastiladon with the Solar Engine, and a Burning Head. And the best tech, though, he's got 3 Croxigor Bounty Hunters. There it is.
This out of pure spite. He just does this because no one else will.
Yes.
It's not because he actually thinks it's good.
Yeah, that's definitely a signature of hate right there. Just like, I don't like your battle line. Let's get him off.
But it's also like, it also just is randomly good because Seraphon.
Yeah.
You know, like, so.
The fact that they stuck
it's
around through the
cool.
Scaly Skin nerf is really nice. GW actually remembered that they existed because they don't have the Saurus or they have the Skink keyword, but they're not good Skink units. They don't have the Saurus keyword. They just exist, and they're ready to destroy your hordes with bounty hunters.
Right. It goes back to like people are prepped for the standard, and if you don't bring something that is a standard, people don't know what it does and don't have the tools necessarily to counteract things. So like just bringing something off meta like Croxigor can sometimes be a boon. It's always funny to watch him explain what Croxigor do to people when they don't know, and it's usually when they're in the middle of 30 of their infantry models. So it's a good time.
I've been there.
Watching
I
him
love
play
to summon them when I
Croxigor.
played Fangs of Sotek, and they'd be like, summon, teleport, charge. I'm like, what do those do? Here you go. Basically, this unit's going to go away. They're like, what? It's like, yes. And they built damage to hordes before they got in bounty hunters. Bounty hunters just meant they eviscerate things. And the Starseer is really nice tech. I know that is like a pet unit of his, but I really like its spell to either give +1 to save on a unit that you keep in your castle, -1 to save on something else.
It's Stephen Hawkskink, dude. The signature player in Andrew's list.
Yes. Yes.
He's got his voice modulator as he reduces your save by 1.
Yes. It's beautiful, Andrew. I can't wait to see you and give you a big hug. We joked that at Hammerfest last year we were both 4-1 Lizard Bros because we both made top 10, 4-1, and we were the only two Lizards in top 10. This year we're both gunning to be 5-0 Lizard Bros.
Yeah, somehow you got there. He's actually good at the game. I don't know how you got there. Maybe on accident. Yeah.
I learned from Andrew, so you know.
Fair.
I learned. Funny, I learned from the guy who just started the game. Right. I went back and
Yeah, exactly. Always good.
Time travel. That's how you get better at AOS.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to be one of 6 people playing the coolest army in the game. Obviously, needs a better book, though. Buff, please.
It's pretty cool. True.
Now we're going to the army that is tied for the most represented in the game. Stormcast, Hammers of Sigmar. Well, this first one is Hammers of Sigmar. Next up, Stormcast, the poster boys of the game, quote unquote. They're trying to be. They are the lightning boys sent down by Sigmar himself to defend the mortal realms. They have a lot of units, but not a lot of them matter, sadly. And we're just going to go ahead and jump into our Monster 9 lists. First one says Hammers of Sigmar. They play Scions of the Storm, which is the half of the book that they can deep strike and put stuff in reserve. They're playing an Imperator. They're playing Andrasta. Bold. Love it. Bastion Carthalos. Another named hero. Like to see it. A Knight and Cantor. 2 Fulms. 5 Vindictors, and Jaws, and 6 Annihilators. This looks kind of like a mishmash list. They've got a few different strategies going on here. The Annihilators for the deep strike strategy. Andrasta to try to take out monsters. And Bastion because he's Bastion.
He is a hammer.
He is a hammer. He has a hammer.
Samuel L. Bastion, my favorite model in the range.
Samuel L. Bastion. I've never heard that before. Oh my god, I've never been referred to him as anything else.
Yeah. And then Fulms and Bounty Hunters is good damage. But, I mean, two Fulminators they pack a lot of punch for just 2 Fulminators, especially in Bounty Hunters. But
yeah,
it's still, I'd maybe like to see it as a 4-man. Maybe have a lot of these teams that are kind of fighting for what they want to do. Like the list seems like it's fighting itself for what it wants to actually do. Maybe condense a few of those teams into 1 or 2 things, I think would be a way to maybe improve the list building a little bit. But you have lots of tools, so if you can find where the tools fit in the right situations for the tools, you can still have some success with the list. It's just a little scattered.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
I think I would have liked to see the Andrasta points go elsewhere and shore up other things in the list.
Exactly, because he has just about half of his points shored up in heroes, so if they don't perform, the list is just going to fall apart. He's got a couple really big alpha strike pieces, but if you bounce off the inevitable wall, you're going to suffer.
Yep. And Stormcast is an elite army. It doesn't have many units that go on the board, so you want to, and it doesn't super play hero hammer that well. It does have some really punchy heroes, but it needs to get a lot of value out of its units. Also, Brian is giving me shit in the chat.
Oh, Brian giving somebody shit. What's new?
Yeah.
What did he say this time?
Giving me shit that I haven't 5-0'd yet.
Oh, yeah, neither is he, so.
I love you, Brian. Also, Alex, glad you're coming. Hopefully good to see you at the tournament. Yeah. Let's move on to the next list. We've got Austin Parisi out of Austin Weirdnobz. He's playing a Stormkeep, so this is the half of the book that does not go into reserve, doesn't teleport, and instead plays the board by being worth more models as the game goes on and having the reactionary ability to do mortals when they get charged. He's running a Knight and Cantor, Lord Relictor, again with the High Priest the Mirror Shield Translocation, a combo we've seen time and time again. He's got a Gur Battle Mage because he wants to make those Fulminators charge better. Good. Basic game plan there, teleport, charge Fulms. And then he's got 2 units of Liberators and 2 units of Long Strike Crossbows. 240 points, I think those are 3-mans. And he's got a unit of Protectors. Protectors, they're the really like tanky ones that just do a bunch of damage, right? But they're slow.
Yeah. Plus 1 save and 8, on a 3+. So functions as a 2+, and there's a bunch of different ways to give them save bonuses, right?
Yeah, it's a reinforced unit of protectors, so it's a 10-man, if I'm remembering their unit size correctly. One thing, real quick, looking back at Alex's list, I don't see a holy command, so I'm going to need to reach out and make sure you get your holy command on the thing. I noticed because...
Does that Thunderbolt Vault?
Does that have Thunderbolt Vault? No. Austin does. The previous list doesn't.
I see. So Alex is missing his.
I noticed because I saw Austin take Thunderbolt Volley. That's why.
Got it.
List works better when you have your holy commands, yeah.
Usually, yes. Let's go. All right, I'm being told to speed up because I talk too much. Moving on to Joe Cartwright, Austin Weirdnobz, also bringing a Hammers list, but he is doing Scions, so again, the teleporty stuff. He's got a Lord Relictor, Knight Incantor, Battle Mage, 2 units of 5 Liberators, 4 Fulms, 4 Dragons. This is a list that just has a varied, diverse type of threats and just tries to take advantage of what Hammers can give you with the ward and play the board well.
Yep, he's got 2 big hammers with the Stormjet Guard and the Dracothian Guard, and then everything else is kind of adding as support, either holding objectives or providing fire support in the case of Vanguard Raptors.
Yeah, it's like the classical Stormcast list, right? Where you saw Dracothian Guard and Drakes. Like, they just are very good. The Dragons are less mobile than they used to be, but they're kind of the Vanguard punch, and then the Fulminators ride in behind them and clean up. So, pair together really well.
Yep. And the best thing about Joe is that where you have beard, Gavin, Joe has hair. And it's just as beautiful and flowing.
Excellent.
So
well, maybe I'll steal it from him. I'll hold him down, pull it out of his head.
Gavin.
Then I can have...
Gavin, if the world couldn't handle it.
Yeah, true.
we had to hold the lid somewhere.
Yeah.
Moving on, we've got Josh Kennedy from also the Austin Weirdnobz bringing his Stormcast Scions list. He's running Hallowed Knights, which is Gardas' faction, if I remember correctly. Speaking of, he's got Gardas in there, so yeah, makes sense. A Knight Judicator with Gryph-hounds for that long-range damage. Then a Relictor, Imperator, 3 units of 5 Liberators, a unit of 5 Vigilers, and 2 units of Grand Hammer Annihilators, another unit of Vigilers, and then 3 Prosecutors.
Yeah.
A lot of varied MSU units taking advantage of the Paladin keyword for Hallowed Knights, if I remember correctly. That's what matters.
Well, 5+ ward on a lot of infantry too makes him hard to move, so plays the objective game, has some shooting to take away your key pieces, and then the Annihilators kind of, you can act like firefighters, right? Drop down, do their thing.
Yep.
And then we have a monster in our next list here. This person, who let this man loose? The juice is loose, dude. Read this.
God, I don't want to. I know what this list is. Oh God. I'll read it. I'll read it for the people. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Knight Vexillors with Meteoric Standard, which, if you don't know what a Knight Vexillor with a Meteoric Standard does, it picks a point once per game. Each one of them can pick a point 24 inches away and in your hero phase, and every unit within 6 inches of that point takes D3 mortal wounds. It's once per game. You don't have to roll for it. And it's in your hero phase. It is the epitome of one pump chump in this game.
Yeah, my man's is tired of being beat at RTTs. So he is coming to punish everyone with this.
He is doing one shot. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And he's trying to support it with, looks like 3 units of Tempestors. Oh no, 4 units of Tempestors and a unit of Judicators with bows. Double battle regiment. Yeah. It's a 2-drop. It's going to choose to go first. Depending on the map, you better pucker up because it's coming for you.
Well, just make sure you make him tell you what his list does. What he wants you to do is put all of your things in one little clump in the middle of the board. It's probably a bad idea.
Typically,
the Dracothian Guard let him play like a halfway decent, like clean up objective game too. They kind of zip around the board. They're hard to move, and they trade well after he does his little mortal wound nonsense. But that's what the list is: mortal wound nonsense. And if it works, he's probably really happy. And if it doesn't, he might just scoop. So,
Coach is right. This list, I think Noe ran this with more Judicators at Salt Lake.
Yeah,
less Tempesters.
That is the original sin.
Oh yeah,
over there with Noe and somewhere in California, I think.
Somewhere from that desolate place.
Yeah.
God, good luck to you, Steven. Jeez. Please buy all your opponent's beer.
Dude, it's like the definition of griefing. Like that might be the most griefing I've seen in a list in Age of Sigmar. I'm here for it. I love it.
Also, let your opponent know what your holy command is and what the spell on your general is supposed to be. Kind of need those to do things.
It's all arbitrary.
Yeah,
like,
still.
And despite that, like they can teleport stuff too. So like they can send things, they can send themselves like all over the board. Like it's actually a fairly cagey list, other than just the initial bombardment that you're going to receive from the flags.
Yeah, agreed.
If it plays against a one drop deep strike list though, and it doesn't position well, it can get cracked.
Yes.
All right,
It weirdly gets really countered by itself too, which is hilarious.
That is pretty funny. Now that you say that. Unfortunately, or I guess fortunately for Steven, he does not have to worry about pairing into it.
Yeah.
Next up, we got Thomas Bailey from Harambe's Heroes. He's playing Astro Templars, my least favorite subfaction in the entire game. Army agnostic, because it deletes monsters rampages, and I like to run monsters.
As a Gargan player, I agree. This is a terrible sub-action.
Very objective way to look at the game.
I'm glad
that that came to such a logical conclusion. Yeah.
I followed my heart and came to a logical conclusion. That's right. Pathos led to Logos.
He's been playing this a lot, so I expect him to do pretty well with it. It's got the foams, the Stormdrake cards, classical.
Yep.
Astro Templars, like punch list. He pulled the shooting for more melee because everyone was big sad when you don't let the Judicators double shoot anymore to translocating. What a travesty, right?
What a travesty.
It was so good for the game state when they could do that, and now that they can't, everyone is suffering for it. So
yeah, but this is a list we've seen before. 4 dragons, 4 foams, a bunch of Vins to help spread the board out, and the 3 units that we tend to see supported. Though the Castellan is an interesting choice. Yeah. I like it. And he's got a Horror Gas because Horror Gas is a good spell.
Yeah, I do like the inclusion of the Horror Gas to add a little bit more utility, a little more punch to those Dracothian Guard and the Storm Drakes. So what they hit is possibly going to run off the board, so it's going to give them a little bit more of a punch.
Yeah, and then despite the incessant whinging by people who used to play dragons, dragons might be every bit as good as they used to be because of Bounty Hunter. Like no double move, but much more punchy against infantry in combat. So I think dragons are just fine.
Yep.
In current game state.
You just can't yeet them forward, turn one like you used to.
And usually they did it to their. It'll be better for most dragon players because they usually just double moved them twice and got them killed and blamed dice. So they don't have that option on their decision tree anymore. So maybe it'll make them play better.
Yep. Totally agree. All right. Moving on, we got Travis Fryer, a friend from the Dallas Defenders, someone I played in November at the Austin Open. He's a great guy. He's playing Scions. He's also playing Astral Templar, so we may be friends, but apparently we're not that good of friends, Travis. He's got Steadfast March, which makes sense because he's got the Annihilators. Oh, no, he's got the Stormdrake right there. That's what you wanted on. 2 units of Annihilators, some Vindictors, a Lord Relictor, Imperitant, and a Knight Incantor. I'm used to... Last time I played against him, he was running a bunch of Fulms and Tempesters. This time he went to Annihilators and Dragons. Units that punch down and... Or I guess punch up and just do a bunch of melee damage. A little bit different from what we had before, but...
Yeah, Stormcast.
I mean, I actually...
Dragons, right? A lot of similar strengths to what we've already been outlining. But go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, like combining, dropping the Fulminators to like add in the Annihilators, which can drop down, open up a huge hole in the wall, which then the dragons can then move through and punish. That's a really interesting list.
Yeah. Who is next?
Steven just pointed out to me that look are the points correct, and that is a 6-man unit of dragons. 680 points.
No, it's 2.
It's just 2. Okay, so it's just 4.
Or yeah, so 4 drakes.
Okay, cool.
6 drakes is 1040.
Okay.
So more than half of your list.
Yeah.
Remember when GW tried to sell them as like 285 for 2? Great times.
No.
Yeah. What a fantastic game state that would be. Who's next?
Please no. Let's move on. Next up, we've got Will Karen from the Wargamers around Conriff, which I remember correctly is kind of a newer addition to the overall Grand Alliance of Houston.
Yeah, they have vests too. They're pretty cool people.
Oh, good. More vests out of Houston with 8 patches. Love it.
Yeah.
But he's bringing a Hammers of Sigmar list. He's got the first prime we've seen this list or this stream, with a 9 Cantor, a Lord Relictor, a Lord Arcanum on a Griff Charger, 4 Fulms, 5 Libs, 2 units of 3 Raptors, and a Burning Head. With 2 Holy Commands. He's got Thunderbolt Volley and Call for Aid. Call for Aid to bring back those Liberators, and Thunderbolt Volley to use one of those long strikes multiple times. This seems like kind of a varied list, a little bit of melee, a little bit of shooting, and the prime to flexibly do either role.
Yeah, lots of good tech and front-loaded damage. It hits really hard. What's a red flag is the wounds. Like 83 wounds is very low.
Yes.
So I could see the list running out of gas if he misengages. But really good tools to take people's power pieces away. So we'll see if what kind of it's very matchup dependent. I think is the read I get from the list. So we'll see if he gets the matchups that he wants or the ones he doesn't.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. I think you hit it on the head. But looking forward to seeing all you guys out. Sorry if I don't say it at the end of every list. You know, we are just trying to get through 92 lists because y'all are crazy and decided to come to Houston for a GT.
Oh, not even through Sylvaneth.
Not through order yet. Next up, we got Chris Cabanis from the Grand Alliance Houston, who's running Hallowed Knights. So you better have Gardas in here. He doesn't. Disappoint.
Awful.
I'd rather see Gardas over Yndrasta, but he's got a Relictor and Imperator, bunch of Vindictors, and a bunch of Annihilators, and then a unit of Praetors.
He got a couple of the new the starter sets. That's what this list looks like to me, which is awesome. I hope that you have a great time at your first tournament. But Gardas makes this better. Yeah,
Gardas does make this better. Also, pick a Holy Command.
Yes.
Got to get that in. Use all your rules. It's better than not using all your rules.
It is. But yeah, I'd be interested to see, like, when you start to branch out into things that aren't in the start collecting, what the choices you make, because you're kind of limited to the ones that you're forced to in here, which are still good. Like, you have very infantry dense, the easy add to get a little bit more horsepower out of this list, just at a baseline. But
Vindictors and Annihilators, like, they're not bad.
Nope. So you got good tools and try to have some fun. It's your first tournament is what I assume it is. So good luck to you.
All right, now on to Sylvaneth, which is also tied for the most representation in the game. From Roll to Wound, we have Devin
all these tree people. Well, before they got a new book, huh? All these people with their newfound love of trees. Where were you? Now you play trees. Sorry, I didn't mean to kill all the momentum there. I just wanted
to... Winter is over Sylvaneth. It is a new spring. It's a very strong book. There are a lot of tricks.
Fantastic. Heartwood, this is the melee, bring a bunch of Kurnoth. He's got, looks like similar to the list that I played against him at the Rumble, where he was a fantastic opponent. Had a very fun game, Devin. He's got an Arch Revenant, a Warstorm Revenant that he wants to do the Warsong Bomb with, Spellslinger, Arcane Tome for Duous Harmony, that kind of stuff. He's also got Drycha for that shooting. She's a great unit. He's got Kurnoth Hunters with Great Bows for the shooting, 2 units of Revenants, unit Dryads, Spitestorm Hive, and the unit I detest.
Hmm.
I don't even want to say the name. Brian, you can say it.
Kronspine.
Kronspine,
Yeah.
the beautiful, the great.
Perfect.
Mm.
Yeah, with Sylvaneth, I've seen in list building is that everyone agrees that Warsong and Tree Revenants are good, and then everyone else is like, it's a million different directions after that, and like a free for all. That you kind of like pick whatever you want and build around it. But Tree Revs help you score really well, and Warsong has the very balanced mechanic that everybody loves. It does mortal wounds into your army with no interactions, nice. And then Kronspine complements that because it makes the cast higher. Also ties down melee threats the list can't deal with, and maybe you can chip at the melee threats and deal with them on your terms instead of it just running roughshod through the center of your army. So, good list design.
Yeah.
I'd like to see some kind of melee punch, maybe instead of Drycha. Like Drycha, it seems like an odd choice to me, but great model. Also, pretty good rules. So
yeah, I think I would have liked to see some like scythe hunters, maybe, or some sword hunters, some sort of melee. Melee Kurnoth would have been cool.
Flies as well, very good.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
that's
But
good.
otherwise, it's good. As much as I hate to admit it, yeah, Kronspine's a good inclusion in the list build.
Yep.
I assume it's the linebacker for the Warsong. Like it's there to basically serve one purpose: protect that Warsong, make sure that things stay away from it.
Yep. Good to see you up, Devin. Hopefully, come by and say hi. Be good to chat again. Next up, we've got former Grand Marshal of the Texas Masters, as he's no longer the reigning champion, bringing back out the trees for the new season. Heartwood. This is a list that I will say performs better than it looks on paper. It's got Alarielle the Everqueen, an Arch Revenant, 6 Scythe Hunters, 3 bows, and a Spiteswarm Hive. There are only 5 units in this list to start. It looks like it has very little board presence, but what it lacks in board presence, it can make up for with the utility you get out of Alarielle and the summoning that you get there to help out.
Yeah, I mean, like, you don't know who Matt is, a fantastic player. List just like bleeds elegance and nuance, like all the way down to like taking the burgeoning instead of dwindling. Burgeoning, I think, extends their ranges on history interactions, which you need because Alarielle's base is so big. So even like little things like that, like I'm sure that Matt will do great with this list, even if it's got something that people consider maybe suboptimal in Alarielle, but like can still get a ton of value out of that model. And because it's considered off meta, people aren't prepared to deal with it. And Alarielle like just won't die. Like she won't die, and she's not going to table your army, but she's going to be a nuisance the entire game. And she's really hard to pick up out of this list. So and zips around the board, and there's a million movement tricks you can do with her. So doesn't have the traditional tools that people are stuck on with Sylvaneth, but it's got some very different ones, and with the right matchups, I can see Matt doing very well.
Yeah, and I played against this list personally, and there's a reason why I said this list is a lot better than it looks on paper. Especially when put in the hands of someone
Pilot
like Matt.
does that too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I played it again this last weekend, and like it took the Gargants apart. Like I had all the damage I would have needed, but managed to only just kill 3 Kurnoth Hunters. It's a surprisingly damage heavy list, especially when the sides can do what sides do best.
It just has a problem, like much of Sylvaneth. If it runs into Seraphon, Scaly Skin kind of neuters that damage output. What are you going to do?
Yeah, or its application, the Spiteswarm Hive. If it doesn't have that, it takes away its ability to reliably engage from anywhere.
Yep.
And then you're kind of really relying on Alarielle to carry you through the game. So there's some holes, like there's weaknesses, but with the right matchups, I'm sure he's going to do very well. So.
Yep. Always someone that I expect to do very well in any tournament that he shows up in.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got Milo, one of our, I want to say newer player, but he's not that new anymore, just newer to the overall GT scene, playing Sylvaneth, also playing Hardwood. He's also playing Alarielle. He's got 2 units of 300s with Great Bows, but he's bringing 10 Tree Revenants across 2 units instead of the big block of Kurnoth with sides, and then taking 2 Dragons allied. He's still playing a 1-drop list, and he's mostly bringing this list because of the Purple Sun errata, because he's happy to not be playing in a tournament where he could potentially lose Alariel to a son.
Fair.
Milo really knows what he's doing when it comes to these armies. He one of our biggest deep divers when it comes to the books and rules that he plays. So he may be an up and comer, but let me tell you, he's no slouch when it comes to playing these games.
He's put in a lot of reps. He's done a lot of analysis. He's come up with something that he knows very well. The Stormcast Guard, I think, are an interesting inclusion. They can move, they can deal with big threats. There's something solid that you can't punch. Whereas most of the army is, for the most part, paper.
Yep. I think he went for more mobility with this list than what Matt has is with his.
Yeah, makes sense.
That's cool. And that Alariel is very, very nice inclusion. He didn't put it on the beetle. He put on this cool 3D print that's really awesome to look at.
It's like a mushroom person.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Next up, we've got Peyton Sadler, who's repping Atomic, which is one of the big stores in Houston. Good buddy of mine. He's been playing he hasn't been the biggest tournament go-getter. He's really coming up into the GT scene. This is going to be his second GT, but he's played a lot. He loves the game. He really wants to get really good with Sylvaneth, so he's brought out the Gnarl Root Warsong Bomb list. Taking the Vegetable Gem, with pretty much what he wants to do is take that Warsong to 3d6, re-rolling spellcasting on Tree Song, so he just mortal wounds everything under the sun. Everything else is kind of just bodies to allow that to happen. He's got the 3 Revenant Seekers. These are the ones that I believe bring back bodies on a 2-up. He's got 6 Hunters with Kurnoth's Scythe to be a real hammer. He's got Spell Portal and Spiteswarm Hive, 2 units of 5 Revenants, 10 Dryads, and a Branch Witch, and then a Tree Lord, because Tree Lord.
Yeah. What I see, well, I think that Spell Portals might be a little bit of overkill because he has the Ancient already, and the one he puts down himself. So, I mean, with proper Ancient placement, you should be able to get access to what you want.
Yes.
So I don't know if you're going to have the extra cast to just cast another spell, like another endless spell. Usually you're pretty strapped for casting, is what I found in these lists. The Branch Witch helps, but you really want to, like, your casting is accounted for, so it's hard to cast Umbral Spell Portals effectively. Also, I'd like to see maybe that turned into something else for the points, or some kind of other endless spell, maybe for a different tech option, like maybe Ravenex or the trees or something like that. But
if I remember correctly, go ahead.
I was going to say he's been playing this a lot at locals, so
Mhm.
Gets a little bit less baboon-like every time he plays it, so it's good to see. He started off with very chittering animal status, and he's gotten a little better every time. So it's
like most of the new players out of Houston.
Yeah, we grow them from a little wee lad into something more respectable. So he's getting there. He's got a really good appetite for the game. So it's good to see him have enthusiasm and grow. Right, the enthusiasm is something that kind of will leave you as you stay around. You just get old and cranky. So having the people that are still enthusiastic about the game is really important, I think. So absolutely. Peyton's great to have around.
The only thing, if I remember correctly, he has Spell Portal because, the Branch Witch has another similar spell to Tree Song or whatever, and he wants to be able to cast that at range and just double down on that. But I think you're right that we could see Jaws and have a better effect. But it's still cool. I was very happy when Peyton started playing. We were friends first because of Magic, and now he's just all in on AOS. It's fantastic to see. I'm hoping he becomes one of those regular names that you get used to seeing at the GTs.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about this list, boys.
It's a cool list. I don't think there's much gnarl in general.
You know what I'm most excited about is the WoW Wiz, man. Big fan. This is y'all can talk about this. It's very complex. I don't know if I can handle it.
It's a Gargants, but trees.
Take it away.
It's March again, my friend. So we have Sylvaneth going with Oakenbrow. The incorrect grand strategy on here. So he will need to fix that. Its hold line is no longer a valid grand strategy.
Okay.
He took the Exploding Sixes season. That's great. Decided to take no Triumph because he's never getting a Triumph with being at 2,000 points. But then basically it's just a bunch of big trees. You got Spirit of Durthu, Tree Lord Ancient, Bundo Wellbiter himself, my man, and 3 Tree Lords. So it's a list that wants to move up and just punch you in the face.
He's got Wildwoods, man.
Yeah.
Wildwoods, man.
I wish he had the bonking stick for Durthu. The Crown of Fell Bowers is fine, but D3 extra attacks on 6 damage. Big number.
Big number better.
Plus D3, bigger number than no plus D3, which is kind of what this list is going for, I think. So,
I do appreciate, Travis, that you just listed out what your season was. None of that, no BS with all of the whatever those season names are. Just tell me what your rule freaking does. I'm good.
Dude, he knows what he's about. All right, I can dig it.
Mad respect for just bringing all Tree Lords. Yeah. I'll take it. He's got all of them. He's got the 3 regular ones in Bounty Hunters too. Man, this is great.
Yeah, I don't think he can have a command entourage neither. I think he's been told already though, because the big characters they don't go into the. Unfortunately, they're too big. There's too much chunk for those to be in there. So awful.
How many wounds are the True Lords and Spirit?
More than 8.
More than 8.
Yeah.
Spirit Durthu's 14. The others.
Bundle Whalebiter, very close. 35, very close to 8. So.
Very close to 8. All right.
And Bundo, he's good, right? So they already have a hypermobility. They can really babysit an objective, kick it if they need to, put it somewhere that you don't want to go, and then basically move up with the trees and just punt you.
I hope that it's like Bundo and all his Tree Lord honeys as the conversions or something. Some kind of weird conversion effect here.
Headcanon is going to be the Bundo's dressed in drag as an Ent wife.
Nice.
That's what I'm going to go with.
Perfect. Big fan.
All right, next up we got Trevor Weirds running trees, which is weird. It's not Ghost. It should be Ghost.
Yeah, he's gonna get upset with himself, and then he's gonna go back to Ghost. That's my prediction for the tournament.
To be fair, it's Tree Ghosts, so there's still a theme.
Tree Ghosts. Yes.
True. Going with Heartwood again, getting all the extra +1 to hit. Going for the Reaping to extend that range of the Sylvaneth of the tree stuff. Right? I believe that's the right one. Put what your rule does. Don't put what the actual thing is. And he's got a Battle Mage, Arch Revenant, Warsong, doing the Warsong, Spellslinger, Tree Song, Verdant Blessing. Wants to do that bomb stuff. Spirit of Durthu, 6 sides, 3 units of 5 revs, Spitesworn Hive, and 3 bugs. Looks like a lot of MSU stuff to kind of spread the board while relying on the Warsong bomb to be a big chunk of your damage.
Yeah, the Seekers are pretty cool too. They keep the Hunters growing because they bring a model back on a 2+ every end of movement or something. So I actually played against somebody in 5th round at Nova who was using it as a teleport trick where you teleport and then bring one of the flies back in the unit. So you get you recomp the distance that you've teleported into.
Okay.
Much like the old Troll Hag used to work with the Cauldron. So it's a neat little trick. The Seekers always wind up being a really good value when I've seen them played. So I like that inclusion.
Okay.
Doubles up on the Spite Swarm and the Battle Mage. This is probably what is generally considered one of the stronger Sylvaneth builds, and I'm sure that Trevor will play it well, or he won't, and he'll go back to Ghosts. Those are my predictions.
One of the two is going to happen.
Yeah,
for sure. Next up, we've got Xiomar Hawkins playing for the awesome Weirdnobz. I'm not Marco when it comes to not knowing people, but I know this name, but I can't put a face next to it. But he's bringing Sylvaneth.
Everybody remembers the name, though. It's the best name in this whole out of the entire field. So you see it once and you never forget it. But I agree. I don't think I can remember who it is precisely.
Which makes me think you're a bit newer to GTs, and if so, welcome. Hope you have fun.
Stay out of the knobs.
We've got Dreadwood in here, which I don't know what that one does, and he's got Vengeance and Spite as his grand strat, going for Sylvaneth buzzwords that I don't know anything about. But he's got Alario, which is dope.
Dreadwood is the Spite Revenants are battle line, and he can do the fight and fade with 2 units as long as one of them is Spite Revenants.
Oh, that's cool.
It's actually a pretty cool little mechanic. I've been building some Dreadwood lists. That's why I know.
That makes sense, and that's why I guess that's why he's got the 2 units of Spite Revenants and then the 2 units of 5 Tree Revenants. And he's got a Lariel, Arch Revenant, cool stuff. He's got a Glade Worm. That's the endless spell. That's like the kind of the snake for.
Yeah, I think it heals. It heals or does damage depending on if it's Sylvaneth or not. I think is the way it works. If it works like it used to.
Cool. I can respect that. Love seeing stuff.
He also has a really interesting.
Doesn't seem.
He also has a really interesting grand strategy. Vengeance of Spite, where he needs to kill a general by an outcast unit. So may not be the easiest to do, but I respect him for taking a little bit of a different grand strategy.
Respect the hustle.
Yeah, I would like to see Glade Worm just turned into Spite Swarm. I think it's just better for your overall strategy a lot of the time.
Agreed.
So.
Okay, moving on. We've got
some dude who sucks at Warhammer.
Who's not that good at Warhammer. Yeah. Mr. Zach Kennedy here, who decided to not TO this year because he wanted to play and win his own event, bringing the trees Harvest Boon. Take what's theirs. Harvest Boon is which one does this one do?
It's the 3d6 cast.
Oh, that's the 3D. Okay.
Yeah.
He's got 2
units for Unbind, and then his season lets him reroll. I don't know if it's selected on here or not.
But. There is no season on there. Zach, what's your season?
Awful. Yeah.
Didn't you vet these lists, Zach? I thought you looked at these.
Looks like somebody's getting docked on tournament points.
He's got 1 leader in the War Song to do the War Song bomb stuff. It is bonded to a unit that I refuse to name again. He's got 2 units of 5 Revenants and 2 units of big Beetle Bugs. The Lancers are the melee bugs, if I remember correctly. And then the Skaith's Wild Hunt, which is an Underworld Warband?
Yeah, yes. It has wizard keywords, so it lets him take the second endless spell. Because he wants to be even more of a terrorist with Geminids, because he wants even less interaction between your 2 armies than Sylvaneth does at a baseline. He doesn't want you to unleash hell either. So
no unleash hell, gonna attack you and then fade away. Yeah. This is you don't play in the combat phase. Done.
Yeah, Zach likes those armies because he's a fantastic human being.
He's a sadist. Yeah. He's a machine.
Yeah.
Before and after the game, he's one of the nicest people on the planet. But during the game,
scumbag.
He's gonna cut you with a scalpel.
Yeah. No, he's this is one of the other people floating around that I expect to do really well at the tournament. Sylvaneth, maybe not as much gas as you could choose if you're gonna pick like the strongest army like selection in the field, but Sylvaneth's still very good. And Zach plays Sylvaneth very good, so probably a good result.
And I know he's been hammering the reps, so.
Yeah, like dozens of games. Hilarious.
On to our last tree army. Dylan Reiger, no club affiliation, just coming here. He's got Gnarlroot, take what's theirs. He's got the Warsong Bomb. He's got Spirit of Dirthu. He's got a Branch Witch, 20 Dryads, 2 units of 5 Revs, Spite Swarm Hive, 6 units of 6 Kurnoth Hunters with sides, and 3 Seekers. All in a battle regiment. So, 1 drop. 1 drop. He really wants to rely on the Warsong. We've said this before. He relies on the Warsong Bomb to do a bunch of the damage, and then he's got a bunch of spread out units. That 20 unit of Dryads meant to be kind of more of an anvil, taking that -1 to hit, -1 to wound debuff, and kind of running with it. And then hitting stuff with Kurnoth sides. 6 sides is good, as we've seen.
Yeah, it looks like this list is just 1 drop versus the other list, which is like has more than 1 drop. So I'd like to see how those 2 do in comparison to each other, because I think that Dictating Turn very, very strong with a list that is designed like Sylvaneth is. So we'll see if the other army can get away with being high drop or not.
I totally agree. I'd be very curious to see that as well. Some cool Sylvaneth lists. Very excited to see how they do at this tournament. We got some really good players piloting them even. Maybe they'll take it all. We'll see.
And with that, finally, we are out of order.
Are we out of order?
We are out of order.
Okay,
we're now into chaos.
Down the screen.
Almost halfway. Yeah.
Almost halfway because order takes up so much. Moving on to Chaos.
Yeah.
One of the coolest in terms of flavor. Moving on to our first and only Beasts of Chaos list. The one that just took
Some dude who
4th.
sucks at Warhammer. Move on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not that. He's okay. He's maybe a little less decent at the game than you. Just a little bit. Running Beasts of Chaos.
About as shitty as Zach. Yeah. Similar skill.
Yeah, exactly. This is Noah, who just took this. I don't know if he changed this list between Nova and now, but if it's the same list as Nova, it's the one that he took to 4th place.
No, it's the same. Yeah.
It's the same?
It's the same.
Okay. He's got a Slave to Darkness Demon Prince, Khorne Demon Prince. Yeah, makes sense. Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, a Great Bray Shaman, a Zangor Shaman on, I thought it said on Piece of Chaos, and I thought that was going to be weird. It's just of. Zangor Shaman, 10 Gors, 30 Zangor, 1 Mind Stealer's Phalanx, love it, 6 Dragon Ogres, 6 Zangor Enlightened, and a Ravening Dire Flock for the spells. Coming in at 10 drop using the Expert Conquerors on the multi-bodies and the Warlord to get the extra artifact, I believe. Yeah. I don't know that much about Beast, but I know you do, Gavin, so why don't you take this?
Yeah, tools for every situation. Plays through the big 2 blocks and the Zangors. And the Zangors, Dragon Ogres, and Enlighten do a lot of heavy lifting. You have some peripheral tech with the Dire Flock and the Mind Stealer. Really mess with your bravery and fight less mechanics, etc. And then Demon Prince just makes combat application very, very fun for his opponent, where you have to roll half your charge every time you try to get into combat with him. So he's usually dictating order of operations and where the fight takes place, and sucks up the middle of the board very well. So list is just designed to play objectives very well. Anytime you take damage into Zangor, Beast of Chaos, you get to recomp the unit, 1/4+ rally. So it makes it very hard to deal with.
I'm also really happy with the artifact, the Tanglehorn Familiars and the Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, being able to shut down a wizard's entire cast in 12 inches. Pretty good.
Okay, that's really nasty. I didn't know that's what that does.
Yeah. And then the characters also pop into spawns too, so he can tie things down.
Yep.
You just run one of your characters into like a big melee threat. It pops, attack sequence stops, and you're stuck in combat with a spawn. And it's a good way for him to keep things at bay. So very toolsy, excellent army piloted by a very good player. So this is one of the others I expect to do very well.
Yep.
At the tournament.
And I know how much he's been getting games in with this list, so.
Yeah, I want to take another picture of him after he gets done playing again.
Oh,
that's
please.
one of my favorite images I've seen in a while.
It's so good. You can see the light in his eyes has faded.
Yeah.
All right. Looking forward to seeing you, Noah. Next up, we are moving on to one of 2 Khorne players. We've got Alan Michael, who, for me personally, it's weird to see him playing Khorne. I'm used to seeing Nurgle demons. This doesn't make any sense to me. But he decided that he wanted to run Skarbrand and do Skarbrand things, which I respect, as someone who also took a break to do that.
Yes.
He's running Reapers of Vengeance. Makes sense if you're running Skarbrand, you don't want to run anything else. Turning out doing Mortals twice with Skarbrand is better than doing it once. He's got a Bloodsecrator to get those extra attacks, Unferret Fury for the 6-inch pylon, a Skullmaster, which is just a solo hero, a Bloodletter hero. I don't really know what it does. 9 Blood Crushers, and 5 Flesh Hounds. That's the meat of this list. That's what I care about more. I love Skarbrand, but man, 2 units of 9 Blood Crushers. Just.
I think Skullmaster makes the Blood Crushers battle line. I think is why it's there.
That makes sense.
But yeah, the Skarbrand does lots of mortal wounds. Blood Crushers stand in front of Skarbrand, so Skarbrand doesn't die to melee threats. And Blood Crushers also double pylon, fight twice with extra attacks, can do some damage too that people aren't prepared for, and they're in bounty hunters, so clear GVs very quickly. It's just a smash list. That's kind of what it does. It wants to kill you in combat, preferably from turn 2 on, so Skarbrand doesn't actually roll dice.
Yep.
And yeah, it's fun. It's fun watching people find out what Skarbrand does once he gets in combat.
It is the exact opposite of what I'm used to seeing from Alan. He went from Nurgle demons, which are just meant to take
all the
everything in
demons,
the sun,
so he's just making the rotation. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. He's a demon guy. Yeah.
It's always fun to see someone who's never played Scarbrand figure out what he does and what that means to their army. You see the light just kind of fade from your eyes.
Oh, I had to do that at a local in San Antonio the other day. Great guy, great opponent. I felt so bad when I rolled 2 6s and just deleted like 4 of his like 8 units. I was like, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I tried.
It seems like a fake number.
It does.
Like you tell somebody and they laugh at you and ask you what the real number is, and you have to tell them it's the real number.
It's the real number.
And I get to fight again, actually. So
yeah. And then I get to fight in your hero phase.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's a great time.
I noticed a welcome to the WOG. Welcome. I don't know if there are others. I apologize. I just popped over the stream screen.
Mm-hmm.
But welcome. Anyway, Alan, hope come by, say hi. Hopefully it's fun. Maybe we'll play each other again like we did last year. It would be cool.
Next up, dude, it's me. I'm taking this one. As some player who has absolutely no idea who he's doing, dog shit baboon player.
Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah, dog shit baboon player. His mouth is bigger. His bark is bigger than his bite. Yeah. He definitely hasn't been in the comments talking shit about everybody.
Yeah. But Brian, fantastic dude. He's gonna be running around hooting and hollering with his Scarbrand, telling everybody how he's gonna beat everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good time. He's got really good tools too. Very similar strengths to what we just read, except he's got the 30 bloodletters, which is very different wrinkle.
Yep.
Then lots of mounted cavalry. He's got a big like murder block of bloodletters, and he's also got the Khorne Demon Prince to let him dictate order of operations in the melee phase, which makes the list very strong. In the melee army specifically, might struggle into some shooting, but if he gets the right matchups, I could see Brian doing very well with this list. So. Good luck.
I also like the Untamed Beasts for the pregame move and the screen. It plays a lot more board control than.
I told him to do that.
Good. Almost like listening to you is good.
That compliment.
You're welcome. Brian, when's your brain gonna get bigger?
Yeah.
Why can't you think of these things yourself? You have to listen to Gavin.
I guess there's worse people to listen to, I suppose.
All right. Well, that's it for Khorne. A little underrepresented, but no doubt the biggest mouth in the entire tournament. So
it counts as at least 3 people.
At least 3. Love you, big guy. Let's go ahead and move on and talk about the only Tzeentch player representation. I would assume partially because the book is coming out soon and people don't want to play it, but Esteban here is a very devout defender who likes to play Tzeentch. I believe he brought it down to Rumble a couple months ago, or last month, which is really fun. Probably the same list. Looks like he's got the Exalted Greater Demon of Tzeentch, and he's got Kairos, a Changeling, 3 units of 10 Acolytes, and then the Crown Spine. God. Freaking.
Why break your things, dude? No, dude, this list is really good. It's actually very similar to Caleb Walters and what he just won Nova with.
Yes.
So list is obviously very strong.
Yeah.
Exalted Greater Demon is interesting wrinkle relative to normal Lord of Change. I'd be curious to see or ask him why he made that distinction. He's got the Jaws, has Spell Portal instead, and doesn't have Purple Sun. I think that is the difference in these two lists.
Okay.
Is that he's taken the Purple Sun points and put them into the Exalted Greater Demon, which makes some sense because of the comp to Purple Sun.
Yeah,
it's not as strong with the list anymore. But very strong tools. It said there's 69 wounds in the list, but it plays like it's got more than that. So it's a solid list. I know he's had some really good placings with it, so I'm sure he'll do.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, he's played Tzeentch for a long time, so he also knows the army really well, and it's always cool.
Yeah, he always plays those tech style lists. He's played some Deepkin, he's played some Tzeentch. Like he always trends towards the very toolsy type armies, so it makes sense that he plays it well.
Yep,
kind of fits his mold.
It was very cool, very good. Nice to see the army represented at least once.
Yeah,
looking forward to seeing you, Esteban. Let's move on to our next army. We've got Slaanesh, represented by the only guy I know who's devoted enough to take this much pain.
The salty Frenchman himself.
The salty Frenchman himself, Mr. Dimitri Hochard. bringing Lurid Haze Invaders so he can take the heroes and deep strike them, which makes sense for why he's taking Sigvald. He's also got Glutos and Be'lakor to give him some extra tech against things that usually give him a lot of trouble, so stuff like Croak Magic or Cabbages to alpha screens, all that stuff. Glutos to be Glutos, great solid piece. Does a little bit of everything for that army. And he's got, looks like, a reinforced unit of Listbarb Archers, so that's 22 because of their weird homunculi. 2 units of Hellstriders, a Symbarish Twin Souls unit, might be reinforced as well, can't remember what the points are. Then he's got Purple Sun to get that nice bit of rend, and Geminids, which you might think to stop the charge, but for Slaanesh is just to bring on the more pain and farm that depravity.
Yes, he's a strong, independent Frenchman who doesn't need no Kronspine.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
And I approve greatly.
I appreciate people who play Slaanesh when they actually play Slaanesh and not just take a bunch of stuff that isn't Slaanesh and pretend that it's a Slaanesh army.
Yes.
So, big fan of this list. And it's something, it's a concept that he's like kind of tweaked throughout the editions too. He's really stayed on that of one. So, awesome to see. Painted very well too.
Oh yeah, it's a very, very well painted army.
Yeah,
it's really cool. I like it. I love the take on it. I love the commitment to not being Kronspine.
Yes.
Welcome to the wall, Damon Kell.
Heck yeah. Love more followers, please. Love it. Yes. Next up, moving on to Maggiekin of Nurgle, my favorite of the Chaos Gods. Some point I will completely finish that army so I can play it more. Moving on to my first round opponent, because she so boldly challenged me.
Yeah, another terrible player, awful Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't know Nurgle well at all.
Love the name of this list.
Miss Emma.
Yeah, we had quite the character arc, right? We started with flies, and now we've done the full babyface turn. We've got random bullshit go. Yeah.
I was expecting Oops All Flies when she challenged me. I'm surprised that it is not that.
Yeah.
Nope, now you get the Rotmeier Creed.
Yes.
The double Rotmeier Creed is very fun, very, very much like it. It's got Putrid Blight Kings. She's got Puskal Gold Blight Lords, and then she's got a bunch of the named heroes, which I'm a fan of. Got Blowout and Orgots and Gutrot, and then
good old Bloby.
Decay Witch. Good old Bloby. It's a very cool list. My favorite thing about this list was Emma saying last night, "Don't ask me what it does because I don't even know." Honestly, I'm happy that she grudged me because it means my first game is going to be a blast regardless. She just challenged.
You got the double Magath Lords, like Blowab and Orgots, are very cost effective for their points. Hard to get off the board, lots of damage and some good tech. And then kind of just a grab bag of units that all have a role that they fill. And it's not as defined as flies. Like the efficiency is not here, but it has more tools.
Yes.
And I'm sure that Emma will find a way to pilot the list adequately and perhaps achieve a moderately good result.
A moderately good result.
Moderately good result.
She may not know what it does, but she'll find out.
yeah, she'll figure it out to an okay standard, I think.
Yeah.
So.
And then she'll tweak it, and then it'll wreck everybody else's face. It's all.
Yeah. No, Emma will do just fine, I think. The list is really got some good tools. Grand strategy is really nice.
Yep.
And Triumph, Bloodthirsty, good.
Good.
All good choices. So.
Agreed. It's gonna be a fun game. I'm very much looking forward to this being my first round.
Yeah. Next
up, we got an Austin Weirdnobz, Jeremy Davis, who's running Befouling Host. He's running Beast of Nurgle Spam, and I love it. Great Unclean One. He's got Horde. The Great Unclean One is Bell and Flail for building into the summoning. He's got Wither Stave because he wants the 3-up rolls around him for the disease points. He's got Slimex. He's got Orgots. A unit of Plague Bears. 300 points? That doesn't seem probably right.
It's reinforced.
Thank you.
So there's 20 plague bears. Yeah.
My brain is apparently melting for a second there, and he's got.
It's okay. I'm here for you.
That's why. And then a unit of Nurglings and 3 battle regiments because you want.
Love the Great Unclean One. Big fat Chad coming up the middle. Yes. It's great.
Never seen triple battle reg. Very interesting.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out why. I guess Horticulus might be over 10 wounds. That's probably why.
Yeah, I think Horticulus is 10.
The triple battle regiment. That's how we do it. I do like Plague Bearers in Expert Conquerors, but if it's reinforced, I see why it can't fit. Maybe even consider splitting those two into Expert Conquerors. But three drop is like it's an interesting play because you see a lot of deviation between like one drop and then just more than like a bigger number than 3. So 3 will catch a lot of the not one drop stuff, which is I think 3 might be a good number to be at.
Yep. And he's going to get the extra 3 because his general's a demon and just try to summon as many beasts as possible. And starting with 5 on the board, just running them everywhere.
Lots of MSU presents a lot of problems for some armies on target priority, so it's good. And the beasts will start healing because of the locusts if you don't kill them, so they can be really annoying if they stick around. Retreat charge, do charge mortals, suck the board up, and kind of play the grind game, which is what Nurgle wants to do.
Yep.
So very different take on Nurgle. I'm interested to see how he does with it. So
yeah, very excited. Gonna be good to see you there, Jeremy. Let's move on. Next, we've got Mitch, the other biggest troll out of Texas.
The enigma, the enigma of the Texas Warhammer scene. Yes.
Yep. Always registers as things that are not what he's running. For example,
Defenders. He's gonna do that until it goes away. Yeah.
Yep. Running out of the Gets Hot club. I don't know if he typed that in himself or just picked a random club that wasn't a Texas one. But he's also running Befouling Host, but he is doing great on Clean Ones, all 3 of them in the Thricefold Befoulment. And then 3 units of 10 Plague Bearers, double normal, cogs, and he's really going for the I want to say it's a big brain, but it's probably a little smoother than I would have thought.
Just playing the 3 big balls of pain. We got the great unclean ones. List is kind of slow. I can see it run into some mobility issues, especially on like mission and army matchups combined. But he just came off of running flies. He did pretty well with flies, but I don't think he enjoyed the playstyle, so he built the Mitch list, and then so now we have this.
You're right. I said big brain. He decided to go with big balls instead.
Yeah, so that's a Mitchell special. So I'm sure we'll have a fantastic time.
Yep. Love it. Next up, we got Nathan Wood from the Sons of Slambo. He's running the Filthbringers list, which means he's got the Rotbringer Coven to get the bonuses to cast for the Rotbringer. And a Lord of Afflictions, being his general with overpowering Tzeentch, Arcane Tome to also make it a wizard. Probably would have liked to see the shield better. I don't think you need more magic once you've got 3 Rotbringer sorcerers. And then he's got 2 units of flies, 2 unit of 10 Plague Bearers, 2 units of Creed, because but they are not battle line. Notably, they're not battle line because this is Filthbringers and not Blessed Sons. He's got
well, it is when the Lord of the Afflictions is your general. He also will.
That got added on. Okay, I thought it was just.
Yeah, it's just you always see the faction because they get the pre-game move, but you can actually proxy them as battle line if you take the Lord of Afflictions as general. Yeah.
Well, yeah, the flies, right?
Yes.
Yeah, about the Creed or just in.
Then I don't know how those are in there. Maybe they're battle line. I don't know.
The Creed are only supposed to be in Blessed Sons, as far as I know. So they should not be considered a battle line unit. Not necessarily a list error, but something to be aware of, because it makes them not.
Kronspine needs to have a bonding selection too, I think.
Yes. So a few things.
Fix your list. Yeah.
Need a bond for Kronspine. Need to put spells on all your Rotbringer sorcerers. And yeah, your Creed should not be considered battle line. But you also got Horror Gas, Purple Sun, Ravenex, Slashing Jaws, going for the triple endless spell Nurgle list.
They do disease too because of the Rotbringer sorcerers, which is hilarious.
Snakes and Tainted.
And then also throws out disease with Rotmire Creed, so can actually do a lot of disease from range, which is much different than what people are used to. So be interested to see how he does throughout the tournament.
Yeah, it could be very fun. A sneaky amount of mortal wounds in this list for sure. I'm loving so far that we've gone through lists of Nurgle and we haven't seen Oops All Flies yet, but I'm sure that my luck is not going to stay. Oh, there it is. There it is.
Notably, on the last list that we're talking about, he's the first person to take a Purple Sun.
He's the first.
Halfway through
Defenders of the Citadel, unsurprising.
No, he's not.
I expect nothing less.
No, I'm sorry.
I expect nothing less.
Referring to Nathan's.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
For
whatever.
What part? Rotmire Creed?
So he's the first to take a Purple Sun.
Oh, yeah. Purple Sun. Still pretty good in Nurgle with the disease being thrown out. It's a very big base. And then -1 to save helps those Puscoils punch through some things that maybe they wouldn't normally. But Purple Sun, maybe reroute those points into something else, too. I'd like to see what he would come up with.
Yeah. Next up, we got Ryan Quirk, who I had the pleasure of playing at Masters with a fantastic guy out of Dallas, but he is he's bringing my least favorite Nurgle build in Oops All Flies. He's got the Lord of Afflictions, overpowering Tzeentch. He's got the tome on it to make it a wizard, and he knows the spell Blades of Putrefaction. He's bringing Be'lakor this time around, though. Don't see that often in Nurgle, but cool. And then he's got 4 Blight Lords, 4 Blight Lords, 2 Blight Lords, 2 Blight Lords, 3 Nurglings, all in a battle regiment, 1 drop.
Nurglings just to make it extra annoying.
Nurglings do make it extra annoying, but I can say I do like this build over the straight normal Oops All Flies build because there's at least some interesting stuff going on in it. More interesting.
Yeah, unless this list plays against Oops All Flies and then it just gets run over because it has more flies.
There's more
hilarious. Yeah, we got a really strong list from a Defenders of the Citadel, so probably a disappointing result. Name a more iconic duo. So should be a good time. I don't think I've met Ryan. I'm sure he's a fantastic person. Don't take it personally.
He's a great guy. He's a great guy.
Don't think much of the Defenders of the Citadel skill. That's all.
We're going to move on to a Houston player who also just decided copy paste. Oops All Flies.
We could kind of put him in that same category. Yeah. With your flies.
This is actually.
He's been liking this list because it's because there's not a lot of it's everything is color coded. There's small words and not a lot of decision making involved in the list. So JTJ really loves the list. So. But yeah, it's all flies. It's really good because it's mobile.
Yeah.
Wound dense. Throws a lot of dice. Does a lot of mixed damage. Very hard for a lot of armies to deal with. So
a lot of elite units that can command point themselves, so it's never away from resources.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm happy about JTJ playing is that eventually it'll get nerfed, and like every other RPG plays.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Eric Tolar playing. Looks like Drowned Men. Also, Oops All Flies.
Yeah, he tried to put flies in Line Breaker, which would make them much better, but they unfortunately cannot go in there. Yes. So if you could make a.
If you would like to continue to
corrections,
just go ahead.
No, bounty hunters, and then he put all of his characters in. Yeah, you can't do that. You can put one character, and then the ones that are not characters can go in. So no, cannot do that.
Nope. But he's got.
But good flies with double Maggoth Lords, a little bit different. So has rerouted some points into Maggoth Lords, who are also pretty good for their points, and they also do a good job of sitting around so the flies can move, do the pregame move.
It's fun, little less board presence because it doesn't have as many flies on the board. But I respect someone who's going to bring two Maggoth Lords. Just don't put all your heroes in Line Breaker; it doesn't work.
Yeah. You still have 10 flies though, so don't let it go to your head. It's only slightly more respectable.
Well, it's because he's taking Kronspine. You couldn't fit the other flies.
Okay. Wait,
true.
No,
Kronspine. I'm sorry, I misread that.
Fine.
I'm sorry. It's getting late.
Almost had a heart attack there. Sorry. Jesus. God. Let's move away from the Nurgle, okay? Let's talk about rats because rats are good.
Yeah,
that's cool. We got 2 rat players here. One of them is, if you've been playing in Houston, you know who he is. The other one, if you've been playing in Austin, you know who he is because he's been running for a while. First one, we've got Chris Carlisle, who did Adeptus Shenanigans, and I laugh every time I see that his club's Adeptus Shenanigans because it just means that he auto-clicked the fill-in on BCP. He is an awesome Weirdnobz, running his mishmash of stuff that he has enjoyed and seemed to find a little bit of success with. He's going with a Vermin Lord Warbringer and souping it up so that it is a big hammer, devious adversary, warpstone charm, flaming weapon. He's got a master molder so that he can take those rat ogres as a battle line unit, which he's got reinforced, so it is a 4-man unit. He's got a warlock engineer, which is nice because he's taking 2 warp lightning cannons, and you only need 1 warlock engineer to juice those up. And he's got 2 doom wheels, 2 units of clan rats, unit of rat ogres. This is just taking a little bit of everything that he likes and then adding gutter runners to it, because a reinforced unit of gutter runners is pretty good. Pop in out of terrain, do a bunch of damage. He's relying on his affinity to roll 1s to make those warp lightning cannons really, really solid.
Yeah,
and I like it. Yeah,
I do like the gutter runners paired with a Vermin Lord Deceiver, so you can go to 15, and then also add 1 to hit and wound. In combat with them, they actually get pretty choppy.
Yes, he has done that before, but he's not doing that in this list because he's just got the Warbringer and the 10. Because he decided to vary his list out. He was at one point running a double Vermin Lord list with Warbringer and Deceiver, so he could do exactly that, and it was pretty fun, but I don't think it satisfied what he wanted to do with the list. And then he couldn't stay away from the Doom Wheels.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of this is like you hit the random unit generator, right, as an exercise and kind of just rolled with it. But Skaven's one of those factions you can get away with it, so I like to see how he does with it. Should be good.
What I know Chris has been doing is, while it looks like that, at least from talks that I've had with him, he has a purpose for every unit, and at least that's better than legit hitting the random button, which is totally what this next guy did. Kyle Corcoran here, who doesn't know how to roll a 6, who brought Thankful, a Gracier, 2 Master Molders because he loves Molder like nobody else I know, 20 Storm Vermin, a unit of 6 Rat Ogres that are battle lined, a unit of 4 Rat Ogres that are not, 2 units of 20 Clan Rats, Soul Scream Bridge, and Lauchon. The man's is taking Mobile Molder with Thankful. Thankful does what Thankful does. He shits out mortal wounds more than pretty much any other unit in the game, and he's got the Rat Ogres to be kind of hammers, and then Storm Vermin to either tank the bodyguard or just be a screen with a lot of attacks. Clan Rats being big screens.
Yeah, he's been running this around locally. 6 Rat Ogres is always been a little awkward as far as application, but it does give them a lot more wounds, and it makes it feel a little better if you roll the 3+ to bring them back, which he never does. But yeah, recomping the Rat Ogres is really strong. I think they're usually in Bounty Hunters. Yeah, they are as well here, and he's got the other 4. Yes. So 2 units of Rat Ogres. He usually plays through those and Thankful. And a lot of the other stuff is just peripheral things that either stand in the way or complement what he's trying to do with the Rat Ogres and Thankful.
Yeah.
Usually it's a solid list. It would work better if he ever learned how to roll well, but she unfortunately doesn't. So
the one strat that he hasn't learned to employ at all.
Yeah, I recommend it.
We love you, Kyle. You just need better dice.
Yeah.
And that's our only rats. I'm disappointed in the amount of rats here. Eventually I will finish mine and they will see the light of a GT, but not anytime soon. But with that out of the way, we are done with Chaos. We are moving on to Death, starting off with the biggest bald Death players who are running Flesh Eater Courts, with BJ Salas starting off with what I'm hoping is the Altergeist list. No, it's not. It's actually a legitimately better list. Unfortunately, I don't know Flesh Eaters that well. It's got Feast Day, a Ghoul King on Terrorgeist, another Ghoul King on Terrorgeist, Archregent, Crypt Haunter, 9 horrors, 10 ghouls, all on Bounty Hunters. So it seems a bit more varied than 5 Terrorgeists.
Yeah, he's got those big hammer units to those Crypt Horrors, so they're coming in hard, they're coming in fast. Terrorgeist, they're still decently good hammers, even with the book showing its age, but it seems like a solid list.
Yeah, I like it a lot. Horrors benefited a lot from being able to be GBs because they're on the bigger bases, if I remember correctly. So being able to fight in 2 ranks is
Yeah,
pretty good.
50 mils. Very nice, yeah. Throws a lot of dice, full rerolls, lots of damage. And then Royal Terror guys can always randomly roll 6s and pop off and pick up your big centerpiece models. So,
Yep.
I mean, Flesh Eater Courts played well. They've never really gotten bad. It's just made of glass. So you really will just melt off the board if you misapply your material. But if you can line up your sequencing properly and roll double turns, Flesh Eater Courts is an army that can beat anything in the game. So it's very volatile. It's probably the most Age of Sigmar army that there is, and that it plays entirely through the double turn and rolling big damage and being very random, which I really like about the army. So, and I know that BJ loves playing it too. He'll probably get drunk and scream the entire time he plays it. So
he's going to be one of the funnest people to be around. Like, no lie.
Yeah, always.
And he's going to give you a really big hug if he knows you. So be prepared.
Yeah, he's going to hug you if he doesn't know you too. So just
you know what? That's a fair point.
Yeah.
Love you, BJ. Looking forward to seeing you. Next up, we've got Jeremiah Gavlak from HHOT, which I don't know what that is. Feast Days.
Hungover Heroes.
Oh, Hangover Heroes. Okay, cool.
Those people. Yeah,
love it.
Texas or some nonsense. Yeah.
Love it. I don't mean that sarcastic.
He is he is Spencer if you just accelerated the time 10 years.
Got it.
That's what he looks like. That's what we've decided, yeah.
Oh, God, that guy. Okay, I know who he is then. I've seen him.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
He's a great guy. He's running a Crypton from a Courtier, Archregent, Ghoul King on Terror guys. 10 ghouls, 9 flayers, Jaws, and then the other thing.
Yeah.
I'd rather see another Terror guys.
Yeah.
To be fair, Kronspine fits really well with this army. He provides something the army doesn't have otherwise, and that's just something that can stick around more than one turn if something hits it really hard.
Yeah.
So it's a shield to the
I'm
class.
very disappointed that you didn't pick up on the Fleshlight Courts.
I did. I did. I just chose not to say it.
Yeah, well, I'm choosing to say it.
You can say it for me.
Yeah, he copy-pasted this from a list that actually went 5-0 at a Canadian GT, I think.
Oh, dope.
Carl Ong played this list, so I think he just had Flesh Eater Courts, Fleshlight Eater Courts, and wanted to play them. So this is a good place to start. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Looking forward to seeing it. Next up, we've got
Fantastic
Doublefield, also from
Fleshlight Courts.
Also Fleshlight Courts.
Yeah.
Which looks like it's copy and paste the same list. It's copy and paste the same list. Yep. No, not quite. He's got. I don't think he has the same command trait. No, it's the same command trait. It's just on a different person. It's the same list. I have nothing new to say about this.
Nothing new. They're gonna.
What is the list?
Really funny if they played each other. That's all I can say.
Kyle.
Oh, is it? It's the same. Yeah, they're all playing this. This is the meme. All the Hangover Heroes are playing the same fucking list.
Okay.
So, yeah, we can just skip them.
So we'll just talk about John's list.
Don't give them the time of day. Yeah.
No, it's the same list. We're gonna skip over the rest of it. John,
all play against each other and have a great time. Yeah.
Okay, I respect the meme. Meme.
Commitment to the meme is all-time tier.
Just cocksucker.
Four copy paste.
Just 4 of them. Okay.
Yeah. At least one of them called it Fleshlight Course, or did they all do that too?
2 of them did.
Yeah.
The other 2 did not.
Yeah.
So we almost had full commitment to the meme.
Well, that's good. We got to fast forward a little bit into
nice.
A player who kind of knows how to play Age of Sigmar. Yeah.
Nah. Yeah. He's
Maybe.
okay. He's okay.
Yeah.
Next up, we got Bill Souza coming all the way down.
He's wandered all the way down into Texas. Finally, I don't know if he's ever actually played in Texas.
But we're
thrilled to have him. Bill Souza, pretty good at Warhammer. If you didn't know, he's won a bunch of things, and he's on. He founded Team America. Has been the driving force and beating heart of the organization for the entirety of his existence. So,
yep.
Excellent person, and he's decent at Sigmar, I suppose.
Very much looking forward to seeing him. Maybe we'll get to play against him. That'd be dope. He's bringing a Scarlet Doom list with 2 units of Blade Geist Revenants, a Dreadblade Harrow, and a bunch of Hex Wraiths. He's got 4 units of 5 Hex Wraiths that are just going to zip around the board, make you chase him while he captures all the objectives and hits you where it hurts.
Yeah, he's going to play a blocking game, and there's a lot of charge mortals here, which he'll use in a way that you haven't seen before from a normal player. And he's just going to muck the board up, play the board state very well, and he's went for efficiency over the character, the complementary character packages that you usually see in Nighthaunt. This is another combination of player and lists that I expect to do really well at the tournament. Be challenging for the overall.
Agreed.
Because Bill's just excellent on anything he plays, and Nighthaunt is one of the armies that's very good in the meta right now. So
agreed. Notably, he took Jaws instead of Sun. Might be because of the comp. Who knows? Yes, Sun typically plays very well in Nighthaunt. It is? Okay. Yeah. But Jaws, still good. Still going to do a bunch of mortals.
Mm-hmm. A little bit easier to cast, too. So.
Yeah. Very cool list.
And who is next?
Next Nighthaunt player we've got is Kel Pig, who's running Quicksilver Dead. So instead of doing mortals with Blade Geist Revenants, he is choosing to not have his attacks be able to be warded from the Dread Scythe Heritance. Running a Crusader for that -1 damage buff, -1 damage debuff, 2 Spirit Torments for that regen, Guardian of Souls specifically so he can get that Purple Sun out without being countered unless you face Khorne. He's got 5 Hex Rights to be a really mobile screen, 2 units of 20 Heritance, 3 Spirit Hosts, 10 Chain Rats, and then a unit of 10 Heritance. Oh, also 4 Banshees and 2 Chain Gas because this list never ends in units. I know this. Yeah.
No, it's basically Doc played by Ghosts. So like lots of output with the Dread Scythes, just a gross number of attacks, and if they get their debuff package off, they can really make it miserable for their opponent. And then you have the regeneration coming from the Spirit Torments and the Guardian of Souls. I like this list a lot.
If it may be the same exact list, if not have slightly tweaked to what we played in Rumble, I can say I definitely didn't respect the output of the Heritance, and it got me. It can be pretty nasty.
Yeah, Kel's been playing this list for a while. He's very good on it, and he's been tweaking it over time. And everything, there's a method to everything in the list. He's play tested everything into a spot to where he has gotten the tools to where he wants them, and they fit the way he plays. So he plays the list well.
Yep.
Quicksilver Dread's very good, especially against things like Godtrick that they just bypass his 3+ ward mechanic and makes Godtrick effectively worthless against this list. And there's other instances of those kinds of interactions that can be very situationally strong and let those Dread Size really chew into things. He's got just enough shooting to wound things into the Heritance being able to have +1 to hit and wound from range. So a lot of little small tech added to this list to tweak it to play how he wants it to play too. So,
which is cool.
Very good. Yep.
Like it. Moving on to our third Nighthaunt list, we've got Ryan Brainerd, not affiliated with the club, bringing on Scarlet Doom. So another Blade Geist Revenants list, but this time he's got more heroes than what we saw from Bill. He's got a Guardian of Souls. Wants to get out that, assuming he wants to get out that Purple Sun. No, he didn't take the Midnight Tome, so he's not trying to autocast that Purple Sun. He's got Cruel Gas Crusader, getting the -1. He's got Kurdos, doing Kurdos things. He's got Lady O, so he's got the married couple. Very nice, very thematic. Spirit Torment, Lord Executioner, really maxing out on all your heroes, getting Spirit Host, Blade Geist, and then Chain Rasp. Trying to play Hero Hammer Nighthaunt. I don't know how effective that is. It's not what I've seen from Nighthaunt, but curious to see how it rolls.
It's not terrible. Kharadron adds a lot to the list. He's like 3 damage, 3 rend, so it's something that the list doesn't normally have. That's that hitting power. Normally it's like a death by 1,000 cuts.
Okay.
But Lady Linder, she's gonna help keep things healthy. She can throw out additional mortals. She is probably a little overcosted, but if he's able to protect her appropriately, she can definitely do some damage.
Sweet. I just have respect because he brought out the married couple.
Absolutely. It's a very thematic list.
Very thematic.
I worry he doesn't have a lot of bodies, so he's going to, again, have to use those heroes in a way that is impacting the game. He does have several great damaging hero pieces with Kurdos and the Lord Executioner, which those put into most things are going to kill them. But, we'll see how he does.
Cool. Next up, we got Marcus from the Defenders of the Citadel, who's running Nighthaunt. He's got Spirit Torment, Cruel Gas Negotiator, another Spirit Torment, Guardian of Souls. Also got Purple Sun, Midnight Tome, that kind of stuff. He's running Scarlet Doom, so 2 units of 20 Revenants makes sense. 9 Spirit Hosts, going for the really big bodyguard / bunch of attack unit. And then 2 units of Chain Rasp with the 4 more Banshees. Going for max drops and just getting a lot of value in a lot of different units.
I respect Marcus for having the intestinal fortitude to build 9 Spirit Hosts.
Yeah, it's one of the more frustrating things to build, isn't it? It's a very good blocking unit too when you start to stack on all of the various buffs that make them tougher to kill. So having the 9 actually makes them really hard to move, which is nice. They stand in front of stuff very well. So 9 Spirit Hosts, you could do worse. The Blightgeist Revenants and Scarlet Doom have become like a staple of competitive play. It seems like the right amount. You have their GV, so they get access to their damage, and then 20 dice on the charge usually translates to 6 or 7 mortal wounds, which is really nice. A functional number of mortal wounds. So very good list. I expect he'll do pretty good with it. So
agreed. Cool. And with that, we're done with Nighthaunt. On to one of our 6 OBR players. First one coming out from Jason DeCare of Harambe's Heroes, running Petrifex Elite. So all your shit is worse than Ren by 1 against everything in this list, and nothing takes battle shock, so Horrorgrass be useless against it. We've got Archon and Catacross, the favorite pair. 30 Mortek guards, so a block that's never going to die. 5 Cavalos Death Riders, 5 Cavalos Death Riders, and a Harvester to stick with the Mortek guard. Oh, and then 3 Immortus guard, which are the not Stalker build of that model.
They're the shielded ones.
They're the shielded ones, okay. So it looks like his
bodyguard for characters as well.
Okay. So it looks like his game plan is to sit on objective with the Mortek guard and spread out with the Death Riders. It looks like he
plays the center very well with the 30 Mortek and the Gothizer Harvester. This is very like the classic OBR build that's been around for almost the entirety of its lifespan, where you play Death Riders or your Vanguard, Mortek are followed around by the Harvester, and you hope that nobody brings shooting, and that's kind of how the list plays.
Yep.
You can stack a lot of debuffs between Catacross and Archon, and like tie down big melee threats with debuffs, and then also just play the objectives really well. That's kind of what the game plan of the list. And so when it gets good matchups, it does very well. When it doesn't, it kind of crumbles. So we'll see how Jason does with it. Jason's a sweetheart of a dude. He's just got into competitive play, so it's really good to see him playing.
Sweet. Glad to have you at GT, man.
He took the OBR grand strategy. I think it's really interesting. He's going to have to keep those Mortek or the Cavalos Death Riders topped up in order to achieve that. Something that I personally wouldn't think about, like tagging those guys. So it may be something he's able to throw people off on.
Cool. Let's look at our next one. We got Schleezus, who's pretty good with this army. Also running Petrifex, he's got Archon and a Mortison Bone Shaper and a Mortison Soul Mason. 20 Mortek Guard, 20 Mortek Guard, 10 Mortek Guard, 2 Crawlers, and then Cogs, Sun, and a Shrieker. Going for a lot of magic and then just kind of tanking with Mortek Guard as the build while sniping out some of your smaller stuff with the Mortek Crawlers.
Yeah, it's like the full gambit. He's run the full gambit with OBR. He's played OBR every way there is to play OBR. This is kind of what he settled on as of late, where he plays more of like a shooting and magic game and has the Mortek stand in front, plays for board position and turtles and takes away the pieces that make your army work. He's one of the defenders that I think is of respectable skill. There's not very many of
respectable skill,
but Jonathan, he's a pretty good player in my book, so I'm sure he'll do well with this. It's very off the beaten path, so a lot of armies aren't equipped to deal with it. So.
I agree. Those crawlers can ruin somebody's day. Can. Yeah. On to the next. we've got Leon Mondragon running also Petrifex, running Archon, Bone Shaper, Mortek, and 2 units of Stalkers with a Gothisar Harvester. Looks like a pretty simple list design. Got a bunch of Mortek guard to stand where they go. Got Stalkers to try to go and kill some stuff. And use Archon and Magic.
Yeah, they swapped out Catacross for more units. This is like a classic melee brawler style Mortek OBR list with the Stalkers as complementary pieces. I really like that a lot. And the Harvester backs up the 60 Mortek, and he just wants to play. He wants to grind in the middle. So he'll have some really good missions for that, and then some ones that aren't as good. And then he'll have some similar things for army. So a lot of his path, I think, through the tournament is going to be determined by his pairings. So his good pairings can have a lot of success.
Yeah, feel like that's kind of a theme with OBR for a lot of their builds.
Yeah, you just play to your strengths, and then like stop trying to make your weaknesses into strengths, because just play to your strengths and hope that you don't get bad pairings. That's where OBR is as a book, which is both frustrating and vindicating, I think.
Yeah, it's not the worst spot to be in.
Yeah,
as long as you play.
It's better than having no options. Yeah.
Yeah. Next up, we got Matt Taylor, also from the Defenders, running OBR. Running Petrifex, he's got a Morrison Soul Mason, Archon the Black. What a theme here. Cavalos Death Riders, a Shrieker, 3 units of Stalkers, and the unit that I don't care to talk about anymore at this point.
Yeah, we're more from the Defenders. It seems to be someone that's an influence in the Defenders of the Citadel. I wonder who that could be. But yeah, it's a brawler melee list that's teched to play like certain missions and certain matchups, and if it gets shooting or bad missions or a combination of those two things, we'll have problems. But if it gets good pairings, could have a very good weekend. So.
Yep, I think it's interesting that he's not running any guard. I think it's faster than some people are going to catch on, or than are going to think when they're used to thinking about OBR. The Mortek aren't like the fastest thing in the world, so he might trip some people up with that.
I like the Death Riders and Bounty Hunters too. They throw a lot of dice,
yes.
And having those do 2 damage is very nice, especially with their speed. So.
Yep.
Shrieker also very good include. That's something I like a lot in OBR. +1 to hit. And then and no inspiring presence or rally. Those are all very good things. So,
yep,
some good list design for sure.
For sure. Looking forward to seeing how you do, man. Let's keep going. We've got Cyberman from Roll to Wound out of Houston, running OBR. This is Archon the Black, Liege Cavalos, Morrison Soul Mason, Morrison Soul Reaper, 5 Death Riders, 6 Stalkers, 3 Stalkers, 5 Death Riders, Harvester, and 2 Endless Spells in the Predator and the Shrieker. So looks like another brawler list just with the variants. Plus Archon.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel like there's much.
Sahiba is a newer player. Girl too. So very, very good inclusion into the community. Very good to see her around.
Props to that.
Need more. All you stinky, fat, middle-aged men. If I change up that demographic a little bit, brings a little light into our community. Fantastic to play too. So newer player, glad she's around. Hope she has a really good weekend.
I hope she does too. Good to stick around. Always nice to have more women in the sport.
Yeah.
Not sport.
It's not a sport.
Whatever. No, I mean, it's a game. My brain's fried. We've been at this for 3 hours already.
Yeah. More OBR. That's what's doing it. Just fries your brain.
Yeah, you're not wrong. A lot of varying units. A lot of same strat. Morrison, Bone Shaper.
Melee brawler army. And
melee brawler army.
More Stalkers in this one, and more Harvesters. Maybe one too many Harvesters and a Crawler. So I think 2 modes of thought with OBR is either build into shooting or you build into melee. You don't want to see a combination of the two, because you wind up with something like this, which is really light on bodies. But maybe does well. Very different. Management of tools will be important. But that's kind of my opinion on OBR. Pick a thing and do it, because that's kind of what the army does as a whole.
No, I think I agree generally from what I've played against them. if you don't build enough into either strat, then you find yourself lacking when you want one or the other.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes into what you said earlier. You just got to pick a strategy, move into it, play to your strengths. If you try to dilute that, you're just going to have a hard time.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, moving on. Now we are in good old Death proper in the Soulblight Gravelords. We've got Chris Creech, who, if I remember correctly, has played like one game since Masters.
One game. And so his placings have gotten better as he's practiced less. So he's just going to not practice at all and see what that gets him.
Yeah, eventually,
right?
Eventually it's going to be 0 games between GTs, and that's when he's going to win.
Yeah.
It's going to.
It's very right logical progression.
He's got a Vengorian Lord, Vordry, Necromancer, 2 units of 5 Blood Knights, 10 skeletons, 30 skeletons. There's your big anvil. 10 wolves, 20 Graveguard. There's your hammer. Playing Castelli. Castelli to get yourself the buffs on the Blood Knights, get yourself Rousing Commander, Fragment of the Keep, good artifact, get the -1 to Wound Aura. Some solid stuff.
Yeah, he knows the army inside and out. He's been pushing it forever.
Went away from the zombies for
pools. Plays mission very well.
Yeah.
I do wonder if we're going to see the traditional challenge now that we're in the new GHB, if he will challenge our own Spencer Miller.
I think they should play it as their
supremacy. Yeah. Although Spencer is fighting unfair now as Seraphon, it's too narrative to play into a strong army like Soulblight.
Yeah. Spencer won up the game and just changed the whole thing.
Yeah.
Dirty Spencer. Moving on, we've got Colt King out of Deathless Minions, who's playing Virkos. So instead of the vampire-focused buff the Blood Knights and other stuff army, he's going for the cast army, getting reroll to cast on all those vampire wizards, getting the spells, running Belladama, who's key warrior to the faction, makes sense. And Necromancer, Kritza, Vampire Lord, Vengo Lord, Radikar the Wolf, 40 zombies, 10 wolves, 20 skeletons, 20 Graveguard, and then the Corsari Night Guard, which I assume is a warband, because that doesn't sound real.
That is the Ogre unit, that came from Curse City. This is a Curse City list. So it's only a lot of units and models from that. So we're seeing the Corsari Night Guard. They're an okay brawling unit, but they're only about 2 models. Now in this case, these reinforced them, so you have 4 basically halberd undead ogres.
Okay. Cool. Got a bunch of heroes looking to cast a lot of spells. Hopefully get those zombies into something where he's going to do mortal wounds, because they're not going to last against any of these lists that have bounty hunters. They're just going to die even faster. The 20 skeletons, those might stick around, and the Graveguard are going to hit somebody really hard. It may be a bunch of Curse City models, but...
I love this list for the sole reason he's taking Wolf Grandma, right? So it's a good list. It plays actually really well into Magic. Lots of casts. They're going to have pretty decent Magic dominance for a Soulblight list. And we're going to see just like Radikar run around and just beast things. He's a surprisingly good fighter. And you've got the zombies just to hold something down and just punch it. There's additional layers here that we don't normally see. Radikar has a wolf summons. Belladama can turn a unit into a wolf. So like those little hiccups, those little speed bumps are going to really help the list out.
Which I love Belladama and Radikar and Virkos. It makes a lot of sense.
It's a very thematic list.
Yeah. Which if you
Radikar is one of the best buys in the book. Like,
yes,
you count for summoning, it's 135. 135 points of free dogs, and I would argue that it's an even better version of actually just putting them in the list, because they come off of a summon from him that lets you really do some interesting things with summoning, and then your screening potential and things of that nature. And then so you're looking at effective cost of like 185 or 175 when he's done with that, and then you still have +1 attacks on the charge as a command ability available, and then just the stat line for that price point is also really good too. So fantastic buy.
We're wrong. According to James West has informed us that this is in fact Little Radikar, which is not the big boy that summons stuff.
Little Radikar. Okay.
He's still 150. Still great amplification for +1 attacks on the charge. Still great. And then he's a caster, and he's like a hang around character that can also do some chip damage, and then also fight and activate with any of the summonable units, which is also does some really interesting things for your pile-ins and coherency, especially when you combine it with, I don't think he has it in the list, Necromancer and Vampire Lord. So if you line up all of your buffs in this list, you have fantastic amplification of whatever you put it on. It's summonable. It's just it's a very complex moving target that you're trying to hit with all of those buffs. So
Okay.
It's
That's
great.
cool.
Very
That's
high skill ceiling. So
cool.
always
I like
good.
I like that there's a lot of
always good to peel apart Soulblight because there's so many moving parts, and to try and see what they do over the board. It's an army I've always wanted to play, just never got around to it.
It's definitely, in my opinion, one of the better designed books that GW has ever put out. So it's really cool to see people still out there playing with it.
Yep.
Agreed.
All right, let's move on. We've got another Virgo's Destiny from the keeper of Atomic himself, Kyle Evans, running a Necromancer, Radicard the Beast. This is the one that summons and is the tank, the hit in combat. Yeah. With Belladama, Vampire Lord, then a Zombie Dragon, Vampire Lord, Dire Wolves, Death Rattle Skeletons, and a Graveguard. Looks like 20 Graveguard, and then 2 units of 20 Skeletons. Yeah. Looks, the varied list, got a couple tar pits, Graveguard to kind of hit and do the things, and then the heroes do hero things. Zombie Dragon hits, and the casters cast with the reroll from Virgo's bonus.
Yeah, something's very interesting about both forms of Radicard is that neither one of them is classified as a monster, so they're both available for the training of your pile-in activations, which lets you do some very interesting things when you get to do both of those things, and then potentially also pile in with a Necromancer again later in the phase. Like, it makes it a very complex and elegant combat army to pilot, and so when combined with a good pilot, it's one of the strongest things in the game, I think.
See, Gavin having the beautiful, nice flowing words to my simple ape comments.
Yes. I can use the small ones too if you'd like. Yeah. I can break it down as simply as you need me to. Yeah.
The orc brain's just coming out. I'm just itching to get to the destruction, I guess.
That's what you brought me here, dude. You brought me here for when we got to 75 of 93 to use the big words.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we got 9 Soulblight lists, so we got to keep moving.
Yeah.
We got 6.
All very
cool
similar things, right?
The cool thing about Kyle is that this will be his first GT, so very excited for him to actually be able to play it and step out from behind the counter.
Yeah, agreed.
Next up, we've got Ryan Sharp out of the Weirdnobz, who's also bringing Virkos, also bringing Radicard, Vengo Lord, Vampire Lord, Necromancer, Wolves, Skeletons, Blood Knights, and 2 units of Graveguard with a Purple Sun, because extra rend on all of that stuff is pretty good. Granted, you were just looking for mortals from the Graveguard anyway, but still.
So we've got a very good delivery system for it too, because you get to reroll casting and Vicarios on your Vampire Lords. Not seeing any ways to get bonuses, so maybe some problems there. There's no Belladama, no cart.
No.
So you're just trying to roll it raw and wriggling, unless you have some arcane terrain for one round of the tournament. You'll have arcane. It'll be glorious.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, but 40 Graveguard, great. Blood Knights, great. All in Bounty Hunters doing twice as many damage is fantastic, and the Graveguard don't get gimped because it's mortal wounds in addition to normal damage, so it makes them really benefit from being in Bounty Hunters. Like seeing that, and then lots of MSU style play for board, regenerate in both phases, maybe deny points and tactics. It's very Soulblight is Soulblight, right? Melee brawler with lots of very intricate tech that plays objectives well if you know how to draw power from the army. So
you said it before, there's just so many cogs that you can just fit into the machine with Soulblight and just tweak it in so many different ways. We've seen 3 Virkos lists in a row and none of them match.
Yep.
They all play very different things. Yeah.
And I would say the pilot would determine power in all 3 of those. None of the lists really have an advantage. say it almost is exclusively driven by pilot, which is really good to see for a book.
Yep. Next up, we got Ashley Hayden, who's representing the Harambe's Heroes. She's running Castellai. She's got Manfred of Lozda, 10 Blood Knights, 5 Blood Knights, 2 units of 10 Skeletons, the Horrorghast, and the Kronspine.
Say it.
Kronspine.
Kronspine. Yeah, Ashley's been around for a little bit, is slowly getting better and better, but what she really does bring to the scene is very well-painted armies.
Yes.
So it's always fantastic to see whatever she has been working on, including this army. I'm sure it'll be in the mix for best painted. And you know, and don't count her out of games either. She's getting better and better. I've seen her play a lot of really good players to close results. So
yeah, we had her on stream at Smash and Bash, and I believe she beat Joe out of our club. And she plays the army well. You said she's been getting better and better, and can't wait to see how she finishes after this tournament. That Kronspine does.
Yeah, she comes up and she's super sweet, and then she starts playing, and the eyes roll over, and then you see that the other person realizes they're actually in for a real game when maybe they underestimated who they're playing. Right, so that's always hilarious to see.
Always hilarious. It'll be cool. Good to see you around, Ashley. Next up, we got Vincent Bowden, also out of Roll to Wound, who's also running Veracos. Got Radikar, Belladama, Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon, Necromancer, 10 Skeletons, 10 Wolves, 20 Zombies, 20 Zombies. Corpse Guard with Balefire Brazier, probably to buff the zombies if I remember correctly. And then 2 units of 5 Blood Knights, going for using 2 battle regiments and then the Bounty Hunters for the Blood Knights. So 4-drop. Interesting. You don't typically see zombies in the current meta, but I respect trying to get the mortals out. They're going to die almost immediately, but I respect trying to get the mortals out.
I'm sorry, I'm kind of multitasking.
You're good.
So I'm going to create some dead air. Who are we on? I'm sorry.
We're on Vincent Bowden and his 40 zombies, 10 Blood Knights, 10 Skeletons, 10 Dire Wolves list.
Which, I mean, it's very similar to some of the lists that we've seen before. Yeah, Radikar, you got Belladama, so many potential Blood Knights out there just to basically act as good hammers. Deadwalker zombies just to basically muck up the board, and Death Rattle Skeletons which don't want to die. So it's a good list. It's a lot of opportunities for him to basically get out there, really delay someone, and just play the game.
Cool.
Heck yeah.
I do like seeing zombies and Expert Conquerors as well, like just as a future thing. The low drops is nice, but the bodies for zombies when Expert Conquerors makes them just that much more versatile and useful, right?
Yeah, and I think it makes sense when they're having a harder time staying on the board with this GHB.
Yeah.
But with that, we are done with death, and we're on to our last, arguably greatest Grand Alliance in destruction. Going for the Mad Lads, the bravest of all the lads, the ones who chose Gloomspite Gitz. Now, they aren't as big brain as you, Gavin. They did not bring Kragnos, but this person right here brought what I remember from Rumble to be one of the most well-painted armies I've seen in a while. In Brandon Wright and his Gloomspite Gitz.
He'll be another contender for sure. Yeah,
absolutely.
We can't all be so big brained as to bring Kragnos.
We can't. But he's got a Dank Old Trogboss, Madcap Chapman, a Troggoth Hag, Fungoid, Break a Boss on Mirebrute Troggoth, bringing in a Trog not even from the book. 6 Rock Guts, 3 Rock Guts, 3 Rock Guts, a Dankold, a Marsh Kralla, and then bringing in the Mushroom and the Arachnic Cauldron. This boy is all in on Trogs, and I love it for it.
Yeah, and a lot of this is specifically selected for like hobbying opportunities too.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon is also a sweetheart of a dude, and he is never like pretended to be interested in competitive play, and is always very straightforward in that he wants to paint and likes showing up and showing off what he's painted and hanging out with the people, and he'll tell you that if you ever talk to him. And so, love to see his army in person.
Awesome guy. This is definitely one of the armies that you're gonna want to like go out of your way to go find if you're coming down to the GT. It's extremely well painted. Looking forward to seeing you, Brandon. Looking forward to seeing the army again.
Yeah, always respect a troll player.
Yep. And the next Mad Lad, Sydney Burgess here, also
Mad
bringing. Yeah, you're right. Fair enough. Mad Lass. The Mad Lass, who's bringing not Trogs, but Moon Clan and Squigs. She's got a Madcap, Mollog, Scragrot, Stabbus, Boingrots, and Loon Smashes, and then 2 Mangler Squigs with the Mork's Mighty Mushrooms. You are, though, missing your Triumph, which you're going to want to put in because you are 5 points under. Occasionally, you might get that Triumph. And looks like you need spells on your Wizards. You're definitely going to want to include those.
Yeah. She also just like showing off what she paints too. Slowly but surely becoming more invested in competitive play, but
slowly
wants to
but
hang
surely
out and show off what she's painted.
Sweet. Never
Seems to be a recurring theme with Gits players, and you can't fault it for it. Love it.
Gits players love their army.
Yeah.
Moving on to Ogres, starting with Beastclaw Raiders from Billy Mondragon, running Blood Gullet. He's bringing a Tyrant, 2 Butchers, 3 units of Iron Guts, one of them reinforced, and 2 Stonehorn Beast Riders. Very fun, just melee Ogres to a T. He's going to try. He's not monster trucking, but man, is he going to rip somebody up.
Still very high damage. It's going to catch people off with that 6-inch pile-in. Those Iron Guts, they're no joke. They will rip you in half.
Agreed.
Yeah. I don't know how much.
This is Bill Mondragon's one of the Slambo boys, I believe.
Yes.
And they love their Ogres.
Good boy. Good boys. Nothing much to say more about this list. Next time, we've got one of our own here in Austin. We got Jeremy Stroh, who's running a Winter Bite Mob-Tribe list. I know the name, but I can't remember what the ability gives you there. We got Frost Lord on Stonehorn, Huskard on Thundertusk, Icebrow Hunter, Butcher, 2 units of Frost Sabers, some Mornfang, and then Icefall Yeeties. Which, because I'm going to keep continuing calling Yeeties after I said that last stream. This is very, very wintry list. Makes sense that he's taking Winter Bite. I don't know Ogres well enough to know how good, bad this is the meta, but I know Jeremy well enough to know that he brings what he wants to bring, and he's usually not bad with it.
Yeah,
go ahead,
Brian.
like
he's taking Winter Bite to kind of help mitigate some of the shooting meta.
Okay.
Being that he sets up these as long as within his deployment zone, he's extract 1 from hit rolls, attacks made with missile weapons. So that's going to definitely help him out there, keep it a little more survivable. Also helps giving him more like beneficial priest, right? So this cool stuff with there. It's got a lot of utility that we don't normally see. I think it's going to catch people off guard as they kind of move forward because these. Generally, this list, like you don't generally see Thunder Tusks as much, but they can be pretty decent when they need to be.
Yeah.
It's definitely geared more towards like clearing hordes.
Cool.
But Jeremy's a great player. He loves he loves his Ogres. Is very proficient with them. I've seen him do some really interesting plays with those Frost Sabers. Really good to see him coming out and playing more GTs.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeremy's actually one of the first people I played in Sigmar, period. And he's fantastic, dude. I played him way back in War Games Con 2019.
Okay.
And he was still playing Ogres then. I think they didn't have a book yet. So
no, not
you won't find it like a more dedicated person to Ogres, and it's great. It's great to see that he sticks around and plays what he wants,
It's very fun. He's one of those people that I respect him so much for just playing what he wants regardless. And it's awesome. Next up, we got Johnny Britton with no club affiliation, but he's bringing Blood Gullet. He's got a Tyrant, a Butcher, 12 Iron Guts, a unit of Mornfang, 12 Gluttons, and a unit of lead belchers. What a dog!
Big meaty blocks. Like
Big
that's
meaty
a lot
blocks.
of fat men.
The footprint on those units.
40 point horror gas makes this list big sad.
You're not wrong.
The saddest.
It very much does. But man, it looks like he's coming here to smash some face, and I hope you are successful in that, Johnny.
Yeah, he's got the wounds, big healthy 151. Love it. And 12 and 12. It's a lot. It's respectable. A man's amount.
A man's amount of fat boys. Love it.
Not just Horgas, Johnny. It'd be fine.
Yeah, that's easier said than done with how many we've seen in this list.
Yeah.
All right. We've got onto the Iron Jaws, the lone Iron Jaws representation we have here at this tournament. We've got Derek Center, our Colorado transplant representing the Austin Weirdnobz. He's running Blood Tubes, man after my own heart. He's going for double cabbage, 2 big Maw Crushers, 2 War Chanters, a Fungoid Cave Shaman, a Foot Boss, and then looks like 5 Brutes and 2 units of Pigs. And then Ripper Snarlfangs.
This army's gorgeous. Derek is up from Colorado, and he's working this army for a little bit. Played Lumineth last season, but has been painting this army, and they're gorgeous.
It's a very wonderful painted army. Yeah. If you've played Iron Jaws on TTS, you know what these look like because those happen to be his models. They got scanned into TTS, and they look even better in person.
Perfect. Yeah, it has double Warlord too, which is interesting because a lot of the time Iron Jaws will be very CP hungry.
Yes.
And if you aren't rolling, a lot of it you'll run into very significant problems usually if you don't roll the 4+ on your heroic action. So this shores up a lot of those blind spots. Snarlfangs is a good screen.
Yes. And
then Fungoid's also building into the CP mechanic because issuing 3 commands into 3 separate units is really good. Double Crusher might have been better last edition. I'd like to see that turned into more pigs maybe, but Double Crush is still very good.
I do know that part of this. Go ahead.
Yeah, talk about how his stuff broke.
I was going to say like
tragedy.
Some of his models broke. I know he's not bringing. Some of the pigs broke. He's not bringing it, and he elected not to borrow some of mine. But oh well. The 2 cabbages are going to be good.
Double Crusher is a fine fallback option, I suppose. So.
Got a wizard cabbage and a armored cabbage.
Quicker games for sure.
Well, the interesting thing is we don't see that much shooting like in these lists. Like there's like maybe out of the 90s that we talked to, 4 or 5 that could actually realistically remove the Maw Crushers before they hit the lines. So
I know what you're talking about, Brian. I count 6 Seraphon lists here. 6 Seraphon lists that kind of shoot pretty well.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But I love you, Derek. Gonna be good to see you again. Next up, we've got here. We've got Rick Allen, who's bringing big yellers, which you know what that means. He's bringing Bolt Boys. He's got Gobsprack, cool, named Wizard, Sneaky Miasma, Snatch Boss, 2 Shamans with the Potgrots, 2 units of Bolt Boys, Hoggrot Slitters, and 3 units of Hoggrots. Just one of them is Battle Line, and then a unit Gut Rippers. Not as many Bolt Boys as I thought there would be, but a lot of those screens in the Hoggrot units. Interesting.
Well, so he's got them into 2 units of 9 Bolt Boys.
Oh, they're 9. Okay.
Like when you combine them into 9s, you lose a lot of your output because every time you delineate or you put them into smaller squads, you get an extra attack on your sergeant. So the more sergeants you have, the more shots you have, right? So if you just take a unit of 9 and split it into 3, you pick up 2 extra shots, which is important for the math as you get more and more into the crunch of what the army does. And then it also it distributes your threat across a bunch of units instead of just funneling them into 2 big units that are very easy for your opponent to kill. So I know he's doing it so he goes lower drop, which it's a fair point, but it also cuts into his output. So I like to see how he does over the course of the weekend with all of that in mind.
He does have the shackles.
If the low drop is enough.
He does have the shackles, so he's trying to hopefully like save his bolt boys from getting charged too much and just shoot them down beforehand. But
yeah, you're just hoping that you don't run into another
Right.
shooting list with this, I think. And it's another very matchup dependent type army. There's a big chunk of the meta right now, like probably at least half, is just hoping they don't get bad matchups.
Yep.
Like Seraphon. Too
True
narrative.
And like, yeah, Cruel Boys is already a slot machine with some of its damage. When you build into it, sometimes the house wins.
Yeah.
But next up, we got a really big brain person here. In James West, bringing his Cruel Boys back out on the board. Guess he got tired of Glot and just running around with the biggest fat boy. He's running big yellers because he's running 9 Manskewer Bolt Boys, but he's only running 1 unit because he's running 2 other units of 20 Gut Rippers for his battle line, 10 Hobgrot Slitters, Gobsprak, Kill the Boss with Stabgrot, Swamp Collar Shaman, a Snatch a Boss on the Sludgerker Beast, and he's got it all in 8 drops because he's taking Warlord and Expert Conquerors for all his battle line that he cares about being on objectives.
Yeah. One thing that's of note is that his Triumph is Indomitable, and that's to bypass Horrorghast. I'd like to see that done in a lot more armies as Horrorghast becomes more prevalent. Just being able to, even if it's just once, being able to bypass that bravery mechanic on the Horrorghast is huge, especially with an army that's got as low as bravery as Cruel does. So it's a very nice little addition, wrinkle.
It's almost like James has a brain with riches, and he knows, and he knows how the good players in Texas specifically, at least, are going to play into this.
Supposedly good.
Supposedly.
Yeah.
The guy who said twice that he was going to go 2-3 with this army and then win 4-1 back to back.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hear he's pretty decent. Next up, we've got our only big WOG player in Marco Hernandez, who you may not have heard of him. He's a bit newer player out here in Austin.
He's a newer player to Austin.
Newer player. Yeah. Loves his orcs though. He's playing big WOG, trying to kill all your battle line with no place for the weak. He's running a Mega Boss on Maw Crusher with Battle Lust, Boss Chopper, Riptooth Fist, Destroyer, Fasten, 2 units of War Chanters, a Shaman, a Prophet, because Bone Splitters be good. Well, the Prophet be good. So, and Swamp Collar Shaman with Pocket, 10 Art Boys, 5 Art Boys, 5 Art Boys, 3 pigs, and 6 Bolt Boys. Taking a mishmash of all 3 factions, trying to take the strengths of Ironjaw's fast melee combat, supporting it with some of the range from Cruel Boys, and then taking the Wargog Prophet and doing Wargog Prophet things.
Yeah, interesting caveat in Big Wah is that the Green-Handed Gork actually interacts with anything that has Aura keyword, so he can actually teleport the Swamp Collar around and Nasty Hex things. He can teleport the Bolt Boys around to get around how static they are. So it's actually a really interesting wrinkle in Big Wah that I like seeing a lot, specifically with the Mire Boot. The Mire Brute with Fasten is that's a cool combo. But this list also has a lot of opportunities for those kind of combinations to happen. He finally ditched his Kragnos, awful. So he's gone for a little bit more of a tech type Big Wah build with no Kragnos. So we'll see how it does for him. I'm sure Marco will do halfway decent. He's an okay player. So
he's an okay player. Yeah, playing a very finesse orc list that's trying to take advantage of what makes each clan good and mixing it together.
Big Wah is one of those things that always feels like there's like the Great Frontier type feel to it, where there's always opportunities to do more things that are more abstract than normal orc stuff. So it's very fun faction.
I mean, and then like you look at this list and what do you hit? Like can't go into it because the Wargog Prophet will zap you off. Like the Mega Boss is your obvious avenue, but then you get swamped by the Ard Boys or the pigs. So it's like there's so many threats here that it's hard to really figure out how do I hit this list. Like if I'm playing against this, like what do I need to do to stop this? I'm not sure. There's so many stuff on the board, so many ways for him to do damage, get up the board, take points. It's a very techy toolbox of a list. I really like it.
Yep.
Very much looking forward to seeing how you play it, Marco. Looking forward to seeing you. It's been a bit. don't table me in a turn this time around.
Hmm.
Next up, we're
We're in Gargant country, baby.
Here's the fucking big brains.
We had the biggest brains.
Who's first?
So how many of these
more
lists have
hangover
4
heroes
models, and
people?
how many of these lists have 8? Is the question.
Well, luckily for Chuck Gavlak, he picked an army that he can actually pilot while being borderline blackout drunk. So he's got that going for him. He's got the model you like, Eli.
Yeah. This I'm used to seeing because someone here likes to run it with Gargant, so it's whatever at this point.
Yeah,
it's just another big boy.
I'm gonna let Brian unravel the intricacies of Sons of Behemoth.
Please.
You can take all of these.
All right,
Please share
so
us the big brain strats.
Big brain. So he took Breaker Tribe because he wants the Fierce Loathings. Idiots with Flags. Anything with a command retinue, do +1 damage. It's a ton of damage. He has on his general Manticore Venom. So on that big club attack that Meister ran 3 damage, he used to be +1 to wound. Another Gatebreaker just for funsies, and a Kraken Eater just to make sure that you can play the game. So like the Kraken Eater, big tech here. It has less damage, but it kicks. So he has taken Arcane Tome, the flame weapon, just to add a little more damage to that club. And then you have the Kron's Bind just to add as a anvil. And then because he has a little more points, he also took Ravenex just to like add a few more mortals, open you up, and just go right down the throat.
Gargant Wizards, great.
Gargant Wizards, gotta love them. So it's a great list. He of course took the Triumph. Doesn't matter. He's 2,000 points. But it's a good solid list.
I'm not sure it mattered anyway if he was below 2,000 points.
Yeah, I mean, so in this list, right? What he's doing, of course, is just running at you, taking the objectives, and bashing you. Like that's what it does. Big damage, big rend, Gargant doing Gargant things.
Should I move the record back a little bit, Brian?
What you mean?
We're going on to Cliff Pope's list, and I have a feeling a lot of the same stuff is going to come up.
Yeah, so here we go. So this one is a little bit different because he's doing Stomper Tribe. So this one is we have a War Stomper, a Mega Gargant. We have Jerome. So he's named all these guys. These are fantastic. Jerome Watkins and Knockers. Great name.
Fantastic.
So Sneaky Pete Jackson, that's your War Stomper with the Ironwilled Cestus. It's the Anvil of the unit, fights pretty well. The Gatebreaker, that's going to be there for damage, and then he's got 2 units of Man Crushers and Bounty Hunters. This does an absurd amount of damage. You can see damage 7 headbutts, coincidentally. So big damage. They're going to clear whatever they do. It is a little bit squishier than the other lists that we saw, but it's faster. Does a lot more damage.
I do love Man Crushers and Bounty Hunters. Fantastic 6 bodies just with the 10 attack club at full health.
Mm-hmm.
Doing what, 2 damage each? Oh.
2 damage each mostly, and then if you are going into a unit of 10 or more, that adds another damage. So on average, most units are going into they're going to be doing 3 damage.
Just wrecks face.
Yeah, they rip you in half. The problem is that it's on a platform that's 12 wounds with a 5-up save. That can't actually help themselves. So like they do suffer from that. But they're fast. They're fast. They do lots of damage, tons of attacks. It's a list. We'll see what it does.
And Cliff's a great guy, and I would like to acknowledge that his list naming convention is immaculate because it's Jerome Watkins and the Knee Knockers, led by Sneaky Pete Jackson and Jerome Watkins himself, with Crazy Mike and the Bump Crew and Pirate Steve and the Mutineers.
Now, as you mentioned before in last list, Inspired didn't matter much. In this list, it actually matters. If he gets hit with something that hits those Man Crusher mobs hard, they don't have a very high leadership, so they can run off the board. So that inspires a little bit of insurance.
And he's 1945, so he's likely getting that every game.
He's likely going to get that.
On to the next.
Inspired is +1 a wound, by the way.
Inspired. Indomitable. Thank you.
That's the one.
I'm always confusing those.
That's
big brain Gargant.
Big damage. Hit on 2s, reroll 1s, wound on 2s, big damage. Yeah. Big number better than small number.
Yeah. Gargant tactic.
So James here has a bit of a different Gargant list. It's something that we saw previous to an Incarnate coming around. But again, he's taking Breaker Tribe. I'm not sure what his Fierce Loathing is. He doesn't look like he is listed that, so he's going to want to notate that. But you've got Kragnos, the big Ender of Empires himself, the Earthquake God. He's just there to smash face. And hopefully do 35 mortal wounds, but it's really there to make the army fast. So they that 3d6 charge outside of within 18 inches. That means the Gargants are typically going to charge you much faster than what you normally expected. Again, when you're dealing with the Gatebreaker, that's a lot of damage. You have your Soul Man Crusher just hanging out in the background, capturing objectives and just being annoying.
Yep, I remember you running this list against me not too long after Kragnos came out. I did not like having those three units with like 3d6 charge pretty early in my face.
A lot of people did. Again, this the downside of this list is Kragnos. He can get shot in mortal wounds. Like he really suffers from that. And being these only 18 wounds, this tends to be a lower wound count than you see in the Gargant lists.
Another list that's going to get its Inspired Triumph every game because it's 1940 points.
Absolutely.
Cool. Next up, we got Matt Gonzalez running Taker Tribe and Defend What's Ours for Grand Strat. Interesting. Running triple Kakin Eater and a Gatebreaker.
I think he ran this, if this is the same guy, he may have ran this at Slambo. So this, I asked him why at that time we took Kraken Eaters. It was what he had painted. So like they are traditionally one of the lower damage models, and now it's been FAQ that you can't kick more than once. There's no argument for that, so it's not the best, but it does do a lot of does have a lot of utility. If it's on objective, he has the opportunity to kick it. Pretty good shooting profiles on those Gargants, and then on top of that, you're not gonna be able to shift them. They're count as an absurd amount of wounds, but it is 4 Mega Gargants, and they can still do the damage that they need to do.
Going to continue to follow the strat of you count as 0 models if you're dead. So
absolutely, and I do like a little bit of tech here. He has the Glowy Lantern. He didn't choose a spell. He'll need to list that. But the Jaws of the Megalodon gives him a variable reroll, depending on what he wants to do. So once per game, he can reroll something. So that's nice. That'll kind of help with the swinginess Gargants. Sometimes you miss. But this list really likes moving into infantry. Those Kraken Eaters can pick up models, just shove them in the pants, right? So they can remove pretty easily those troublesome models like the command, or basically pop into you, make you have to fall out of coherency. So it can be interesting. My experience is that Kraken Eaters typically are lower damage, and that with you're dealing with a Gargant list, you really want to focus on the high damage or to leverage them. That's why they're oppressive. They don't do the damage, they're not quite as troublesome.
Okay. Let's move on to our final list. Ryan Rutherford out of the Sons of Slambo, who decided to bring out, among his many armies, his Sons of Behemoth, the Breaker Tribe, choosing triple Gatebreaker and 2 solo Man Crushers with a Horrorghast.
So
what an interesting take for Gargant.
It's definitely interesting. We don't have his Fierce Loathing, probably needs to list that. But it is a little bit of a different list, right? He is, when you're dealing with this, you can either go one of two ways. You can go like as many Mega Gargants as you can, and then or you can basically take Man Crushers. He decided to kind of split the difference. He's going 3 Gatebreakers because they're just absurd amounts of damage. Typically, they can clear most armies, and they hit well above their points. And then he opted to not take like Incarnate that we normally see. So instead he took the 2 Man Crusher Gargants, and that's because this big list we typically see is you move the Gatebreakers forward, you get in their lines, you smash stuff, but then something lives and runs off in the backfield. Well, now the Man Crusher is there to make sure that it doesn't get away, hold objectives, and clear up the back line.
It's 1955. It's going to get its Inspired Triumph every time.
It's good. He also has the Horrorghast. He's going to really focus on that -1 to leadership and force you to take those battle shock phases.
So basically insurance to not keep the Gatebreaker stuck in combat.
Absolutely. You want to clear things. You don't want to be stuck for very long. That just helps them hit just that much harder.
Yep. And with that, we're done with the list. A grand 3.5 hours later, we are through.
I mean, that's not bad considering we did 90 plus lists. So
92
I think
lists.
we did pretty good.
But now, yep. So before we go ahead and get into final predictions, just so you know, if you want to go ahead, if you can't make it down, you can go ahead and watch the streams here on this channel at Weirdnobz. We're going to bring you 5 games of hopefully great games with great commentary. We got 3 commentators, 1 still left to be revealed, and it's going to be a grand time next weekend, the 17th and the 18th. Join us here on Twitch. If you want to keep up with news, join us at Twitter at Weirdnobz. Apparently, I can't find my words right now. And we'll be posting announcements and updates from when we're going to be onto the stream. Hammerfest is the first grand tournament of the Texas Masters 2022 to 2023 season. Next up, we've got Slambo November 5th and 6th, which Weirdnobz will also be there doing the GT. We'll likely do another list review stream of some sort then. In the spring, we've got the Lone Star GT in Dallas, February 18th and 19th. We got our very own Smash Bash down here in Austin, the 22nd, 23rd of April, and then the Grand Masters in June 24th and 25th, location to be determined. Texas Masters is our big competitive circuit here, and we are happy to bring this out to basically share this with the world.
As far as future plans, we will also be streaming next week. We'll have 2 games being streamed live for your enjoyment. Come out and watch us play. We'd love to have anyone watching out here watching that game, watch us kind of do our thing. So,
yep.
This week, I'm sorry, the 11th is when we'll be streaming.
3 days from now. It's going to be a blast. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get to our predictions. Out of all these lists, out of all these players, Gavin, we'll start with you as the big guest. Who do you think is going to take it, or at least who do you think is going to be competing to take it strongly?
How many do I get?
3.
3.
Let's go with 3.
Zach, Bill, Jeremy.
Pick 3 picks. There you go.
That's it.
Brian?
So out of the lists, I like 3 that are going to be my pick. I really like the list. I think Chris Schelling, he's a strong player. It's good to see him play something other than Gargants. He has Gavin's list. I think he will pilot it very well. He's a very precise player. I like him a lot. I also really like Randy. I think he's got a list that I don't know if a lot of other lists are going to have answers to. A lot of shooting. It's going to be some stuff that can really take it off. And I'm going to go for my upset pick. I'm going to go Dimitri. I think people are going to basically underestimate Slaanesh and what Bellacore can do to lists and just stop you basically from doing the things you want to do. So those are my 3 picks.
And I got to support my boy Matt Robish. I think Jeremy Viserys is also going to list plays extremely well into this meta, and then probably Zach. Dude's a freak, and his list is just going to hammer people hard.
No Bill Souza. Noted.
Bill is 4, only because I got to support my boy.
4.
I gotta support stuff, like, right? So Bill is the big unknown, the big boogeyman. Like, he's the Dark Lord, right? Can't pick him. He's the end boss, the end the tunnel for them.
I mean, we can also.
It's just a strong and competitive field. Yeah, Spoon for sure. But no, the field's very deep, so you could probably, you could go all the way to 10, 15 people and feel like any of those people have a chance at doing very well or winning the tournament. So I'm interested to see how it plays out.
Yeah, it's gonna be really fun. Question with how many non-Texans we have coming down. I'm very curious to see how many, what the mix is at the top between Texan and non-Texan players.
Well, the thing to remember too, it's a dice game, right? So you can have your predictions, but depending if the dice just go tits up, like just that can be go quite just go.
Bill Huza, yeah, Bill Huza, me. The winner is me. No, Brian. No, I wish everyone in this world would love Brian as much as Brian loves Brian. Nobody loves Brian like Brian loves Brian.
I changed my pick. I want to see Brian win, just because then you guys in the Houston never hear the end of it. Like, he's my pick.
Oh,
There's
God.
Nobody ever in the history of the world will hear the end of it. So
everyone will know
world might
Everyone
end.
will know.
Yeah.
I mean, the man's unstoppable. We tried to poison him with drinks at Masters, and he came back like hungover.
It just makes it more
angry.
powerful.
It just
Yeah,
makes
it
it stronger.
Yeah.
Oh, well, this is great. I had fun. Hope you guys had fun. I think we're just going to go ahead and cut it off here. No special Flores.
Absolutely.
Follow us on Twitch if you like what we're doing. Follow us on Twitter if you want to keep up with it. Both are at Weirdnobz/Weirdnobz. It's going to be a blast. Looking forward to next week immensely. I'm super itching to run at it, another GT. But with that being said, I think we're going to go ahead and sign off. So, peace out, everybody.
Bye-bye. See you later.